After carrying his girlfriend upstairs, Leo settled her into bed to rest. When he came back downstairs to the living room, he saw a certain chubby-headed parrot frantically flying back to its cage, craning its neck to peek at him like it had been caught doing something wrong. It looks like it was up to no good. He walked over to the couch, glanced around, and saw that nothing on the coffee table had been knocked over or disturbed. He shot another look toward the birdcage. You weren't causing trouble, were you? A lot of this stuff belongs to your mother. These are her work materials. If you mess them up, you dumb bird, you're in for it. He was vaguely aware of the parrot's recent flurry of activity, arranging its nest with all sorts of things. But as dumb as the bird was, it knew its limits and wouldn't cause any real damage. At worst, it would just collect twigs and scraps of paper, treating them like treasures to hoard in its cage. So, Leo's warning was mostly just a casual reminder. Inside the cage, Reasonable flapped its wings and declared with righteous indignation, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm a respectable parrot. I don't do bad things." Leo nodded, his gaze returning to the coffee table. He was surprised to see a small slip of paper on the floor. It must have fallen out when he was helping Claire put away her notebooks earlier. He bent down to pick it up and glanced at it casually. A contract wager. What the hell is this? He looked closer. It was a handwritten and signed note from the eldest grandson of the Way family, certifying that if he started dating Annie Cakes, he would hand over the entire Way family enterprise. Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now he remembered. Bertha Sue had mentioned something about it a while ago, saying she'd picked up the Way family. He hadn't understood what she meant at the time, but now it was clear. Wyatt Way and Annie Cakes. Could those two actually work? Leo Hammer Wallace, whose emotional radar was about as sensitive as a brick, couldn't see any signs of a spark between them. Besides, his girlfriend was being unreasonable. How could she scheme to take over the entire family business of her childhood friend? The assets of a single Way family. Could they possibly be more important than a lifelong friendship? Oh, wait. Yeah, probably. Having instantly changed his mind, Leo Hammer Wallace carefully picked up the note and tucked it away for safekeeping with the utmost solemnity. He even started plotting how he, as the older brother, could play matchmaker and give his cousin Anna a little nudge toward young Mr. Way. No ulterior motives, of course. He certainly wasn't after the Way family fortune. He was purely thinking of his dear cousin's happiness. With the mistress of the singles slaughterhouse napping upstairs, the master sat down on the living room couch. He pulled out his laptop, opened it on his lap, and got to work. He had been in the middle of a meeting at Happy Nest headquarters yesterday when he got the frantic call from Quinn and had to rush back. Some tasks still needed to be refined and delegated to the team. He also needed to think through some of the project plans he had discussed with his mentor, Governor Zhao Bojan. Some of them required careful consideration and couldn't be rushed. But projects like making Garden Grab a charitable initiative and building a rumor control and disaster response mechanism could be set in motion. These projects required not only the efforts of Happiness R&D department and others, but also the cooperation of various official departments within city. Before, getting that kind of official support would have been a nightmare of red tape and bureaucratic runaround. But things were different now. After the personal visit from the city's top official, Governor Zhao, and after the 8 words, "Pioneers of Technology," the standard for East Bay, were plastered across all official media outlets, everyone in the city administration and its subordinate departments knew exactly where the governor stood. Who would dare cause trouble for a company so highly regarded by their #1 boss? Did they have a death wish? Lately, the number of department heads personally visiting or extending dinner invitations was too high to count. It had become a delightful problem for David Chung, the CEO of Happy Nest. But even with the tide turned so dramatically in their favor, David Chung didn't let it go to his head. On the contrary, when meeting with the heads of various departments, he remained as humble and low-key as possible. This attitude earned him considerable admiration and praise within the city's official circles. Of course, that was his public face. Back in his own company, behind closed doors, and chatting privately with his co-founder and CSO, Mr. Chung was a completely different person, practically dancing with glee. Man, you should have seen it. The way those department heads are falling all over themselves to be nice to me. Holy shit. It's just one word. Awesome. Sitting on the couch in the LNS house, Leo lost track of time as he worked. As noon approached, he was just closing his laptop when he heard footsteps on the stairs. The mistress of the single slaughterhouse was awake. She came downstairs, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. From the couch, Leo looked up and smiled. "You're up?" Claire hummed in response, her voice still thick with sleep. She frowned slightly. "I've been sleeping so much since I got sick. I feel like I'm turning into a little pig." Leo chuckled and offered some heartfelt comfort. It's fine. You're like a pig even when you're not sick. From How to Fail at Comforting 101. The mistress of the single slaughterhouse's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? She turned her head to look at her chubby-headed parrot in its cage and issued a decisive command. Reasonable. Get him. The parrot, who was furtively hiding the note it had just picked up, looked up in confusion. Squawk. Attack Father Emperor? Me? For lunch, Leo was on cooking duty again. Claire's appetite was poor due to her cold, so he just made some plain rice porridge and a few simple side dishes. After eating, they felt a little cooped up staying at home all afternoon. Claire wanted to get some fresh air. Leo agreed to go for a walk with her, but not before bundling her up to make sure she wouldn't catch a chill. He made her wear 2 jackets and a face mask. Then, for good measure, he placed the red and gold Gryffindor-style wizard hat that Bertha Sue had personally knitted for him on her head. She actually looked a bit like a pretty little witch. Claire protested, her voice muffled by the mask. Leo, you're dressing me too warmly. Leo dismissed her protest without a second thought. You have to wear this. What if you get cold again? There's a kind of cold called my boyfriend thinks I'm cold. Once she was fully bundled, the young couple finally left the house. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow, and a gentle breeze blew. It wasn't chilly at all. In fact, it was rather pleasant. The slaughterhouse couple strolled leisurely down the road. When they reached the commercial street near the campus's east gate, they made a casual turn and went to inspect their own business, the Blockhead Workshop. It was a Tuesday afternoon, so most of the Berkeley students were still in class. The Blockhead Workshop was relatively quiet. However, there were a few students, likely from other nearby universities who had heard about the place, sitting excitedly at the DIY crafting tables, busy painting their blockheaded figures. Among them were even a few couples, probably drawn in by the special couples figure package the workshop had recently started offering. The gang from room 205 and room 520 were all in class, so the rotating student managers hadn't arrived for their shifts yet. The ones minding the store were 4 or 5 younger students from Northwood High. When Alex Zhang, the shift leader, saw Leo walk and holding Claire's hand, his eyes lit up, and he hurried over. Hey, Leo. Then he looked at Claire. Whoa, Claire, why are you bundled up like that? And is that a hat? A Harry Potter Gryffindor hat? Where'd you buy it? Haha, that looks so ridiculous. You should get a refund from whoever sold it to you. He laughed without a care in the world, completely oblivious to the fact that the temperature in the shop had just dropped several degrees. Claire looked at the underclassman and said flatly, I didn't buy it. I made it myself. The laughter stopped abruptly. The other Northwood students nearby shot Alex sympathetic, pitying glances, as if looking at a man on death row. On this cool autumn day, Alex felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead. Oh, I just remembered I have something to do. Leo, Claire, make yourselves at home. I'm just going to go check on something in the back room. He turned and bolted. Watching him flee, Claire wrinkled her nose, adjusted the handmade wool hat on her head, and turned to her boyfriend. Her voice was muffled and nasal. Is this hat really that ugly? Leo immediately answered with righteous conviction. Of course not. Who said it's ugly? This hat is fantastic. That kid Alex has probably been working too hard lately. He's delirious and talking nonsense. As a senior, he had to say a few good words to try and save his junior. Claire tilted her head, considering it. He has been working pretty hard. As the proprietress of a workshop, Bertha Sue decided to let it slide, showing her magnanimity and repaying malice with virtue. In that case, I'll bake him some cookies later as a reward. Leo fell silent for a moment. That works. No saving him now. He's completely done for. Since they were already at the shop and had nothing else to do, they decided to stay for a while. Leo had Claire get comfortable in the manager's special reclining chair behind the cash register and brought over a blanket to cover her. He then asked the younger students to bring his boss lady some fruit and hot water. After reminding his girlfriend to take her medicine later, he leisurely walked over to the crafting tables to check on the business. Her boyfriend had taken care of everything. The afternoon sun streamed into the shop. The great proprietress, Claire, nestled cozily in her recliner. With hot water cooling on the table beside her, she used a toothpick to nibble on some fruit, leisurely watching her boyfriend as he walked over to a few student customers at the crafting tables and started chatting with them. A young couple over there seemed to be deciding which block-headed figure style to make. They were hesitating. Leo walked over and launched into a masterful sales pitch. Within a few sentences, he had the couple completely charmed and bewildered. They then eagerly and excitedly chose the Forever Yours couples package for $13.14. As they paid, they didn't forget to thank the kind owner profusely. Leo just waved his hand righteously. It's my pleasure, my pleasure. The customer is always right, after all. Watching this scene, Claire couldn't help but smile. The customer is always right, my ass. Even God himself would have to cough up a few coins to get out of here. But seeing this, watching her boyfriend move so confidently and easily among the customers, with the sunlight from the window catching the handsome profile of his face, she felt a wave of warmth and happiness wash over her. A sunny afternoon, a cozy little shop, the proprietress nestled behind the counter watching the owner drum up business. A simple life like this seemed like something she could live for a lifetime. That evening, back at the LNS house, the couple lay on the couch after dinner, watching some TV together. The news was reporting on the various policy initiatives Governor Zhao Bojan had undertaken since taking office. When the report mentioned his emphasis on supporting the local service industry, it specifically showed footage of his visit to several local companies. A handshake photo with Happy Nest CEO David Chung at the building on Wanning Road was particularly prominent. Leo watched with great interest, mentally critiquing David for grinning so hard in the photo that his mouth nearly split his face. The man had no subtlety. Beside him, Claire, oblivious to her boyfriend's thoughts, frowned slightly in confusion as she watched the screen. A city governor's visit was major news. She should have had some memory of it from her past life. But she couldn't recall anything like this ever happening. And the photo only showed the CEO of Happy Nest. That other mysterious figure, the CSO, was still nowhere to be seen. Shaking her head to clear her thoughts, Claire shifted subconsciously. Sitting on the couch for so long had made her a little sore. She gently kicked her boyfriend's leg, her tone coquettish. "Leo, my legs are a little sore." The handsome young man beside her instantly perked up. "Leave it to me. I'll give you a massage." After washing up that night, Leo made sure Claire took her cold medicine before getting into bed. He had just checked her temperature again. She was clearly much better. Another night's rest, and she would probably be fully recovered by morning. Tucked into the warm blankets, Claire peeked her head out, looked at her boyfriend expertly tucking her in, and announced, "Leo, I think I must be the happiest person in the world." Leo looked up and replied casually, "We're just getting started. The best days are still ahead." After tucking her in, he leaned closer to the bed. "How about a kiss as a reward?" Claire burrowed deeper into the blankets. "No way. My cold isn't completely gone. I'll get you sick." Leo nodded knowingly. "All right, I'll go sleep in the guest room then." He pretended to get up and leave, but just as his girlfriend let her guard down, he suddenly swooped in and planted a quick kiss on Bertha Sue's lips. Claire let out a small gasp, then swatted him, half annoyed and half amused. "You idiot! What if I get you sick?" Having successfully stolen a kiss, Leo Hammer Wallace stood up, satisfied, and laughed. "Don't worry, your husband is in great shape." The next morning, when a mistress of the singles slaughterhouse, now fully recovered from her cold, woke up feeling refreshed and went downstairs, she was surprised to find no sign of her boyfriend in the living room or the kitchen. She called his name a couple of times. Puzzled, she walked to the downstairs guest room and pushed the door open. She looked at the bed. She couldn't help but feel a mix of exasperation and amusement. "You pighead, I told you not to kiss me last night." On the bed, a certain handsome young man, feverish and dizzy, spoke with a heavy nasal voice. "It's okay. Worth it. Author's note, taking tomorrow off. The main plot is about to speed up, so get ready." Leo never would have imagined it. Just last night, he was confidently bragging about how strong he was, how one little kiss couldn't possibly transmit the flu. But this morning, he woke up burning hot and sweaty under the covers, his forehead feeling like it was on fire, his head spinning. Even his limbs ached as if he'd just run a marathon. An ironclad lesson. When your partner has the seasonal flu, do not kiss them. Do not kiss them. Do not kiss them. Important things must be said 3 times. But even so, lying in bed, Leo tried to put on a brave face to reassure his girlfriend. "It's fine. This is what you call being one in heart and mind. I'm just personally experiencing the suffering you went through." Claire didn't know whether to be angry or amused. "Who asked you to be one in heart and mind on this? You pighead." Though she said that, seeing how miserable he looked under the covers, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. "I'll get the thermometer and check your temperature. If it's too high, we should go to the campus clinic." She had felt much better after getting in 4 drip the other night. It worked faster than just taking medicine. But Leo shook his head with great effort. "No need. It's too much trouble. Just give me some of your leftover medicine. You can't just get in 4 for every little cold. It's not good for you." He spoke with such clear, objective, and fair reasoning. But his real motives couldn't fool the woman in front of him. Claire shot him a sidelong glance. Is someone afraid of needles? Having read through every single one of Leo Hammer Wallace's childhood diaries, She knew her boyfriend inside and out. But seeing his pathetic state, Claire's heart softened. All right, take some medicine first and see how you feel. If you're not better by this afternoon, I'm taking you to the clinic, okay? Leo managed a weak thumbs up, his voice filled with gratitude. What a woman. Whoever marries you is the luckiest man alive. Claire was exasperated. She smacked his hand away and pushed it back under the covers. Stop being so dramatic. Just rest. I'll get you some hot water for your medicine. As she stood up to leave the room, she remembered something. All right, no one's made breakfast yet. I'll make you some porridge. Those words nearly made the delirious, half-dead patient jump out of bed. He was suddenly wide awake. And no need. I'll just take the medicine. Chef Sue had recently mastered the art of frying an egg. But making porridge was a new skill she had yet to unlock. When you have a cold and a fever, you don't really have an appetite anyway. After taking the medicine, Leo drifted back into a groggy sleep. He slept until almost noon. When he woke up, he didn't feel much better. His mouth was dry, and he was still burning up. He took his temperature. 102, 5 degree F. That was a high fever. Claire's brow furrowed with worry. This time, she wasn't giving her needle-fearing little boyfriend any chance to refuse or make excuses. Her decision was final. We're going to the campus clinic. If he needed a shot, he was getting a shot. If he needed in 4, he was getting in 4. The dizzy Leo, Hammer Wallace, made a last-ditch attempt at resistance. I think I'm okay. The next second, Claire's gaze turned icy. The adults are making a decision. Children don't talk back. Her tone carried the unquestionable authority of the CEO she had been in her past life. Then, her voice softened as she stroked his face, coaxing him. Be good. Listen to me. After the shot in the 4, you'll feel all better. If you're a good boy, when you're well, Big Sister will give you a candy. Listening to this, Leo couldn't help but feel a mixture of amusement and exasperation. She's really treating me like a child. He managed a weak protest. Can I get an adult's reward instead? Claire's eyebrows rose. An adult's reward? Then they relaxed. Fine. When you're better, I'll. The young woman leaned close to her boyfriend's ear and whispered something not meant for anyone else to hear. The next moment, he was suddenly energized, his body filled with a newfound strength. He sat up in bed without any help. Deal. Let's go. To the hospital. It's just a little needle. Your boy here isn't scared of anything. The medicine and the nap had, at least, given him a bit of energy. Leo managed to wash up and get dressed by himself without his girlfriend's help. He even obediently put on the red and gold Gryffindor hat at her command. But after all that activity, his limbs felt sore and weak again, and he was unsteady on his feet. Claire quickly came over to support him. As they were leaving, Reasonable saw them from its cage and flew over in a panic, flapping its wings and crying out dramatically, "Father Emperor! Father Emperor!" Its voice was filled with anguish. Leo swatted it away in annoyance. "Damn bird, you'd think I was on my deathbed. Bad luck." Once outside, Claire drove the Maybach, taking the patient, Leo Hammer Wallace, to the campus clinic. When they arrived, she used his student ID to register. Then they went to the lab for a blood test. The results confirmed it was the exact same seasonal flu. Finally, they found the same nurse from the other day to set up his 4-drip. It was all very familiar. The nurse was a bit stunned to see the slaughterhouse couple again. Wait a minute. Am I working too hard and seeing things? I could have sworn it was the girl who was sick the other day. When it was time to insert the needle into his vein for the 4, Leo, the big tough man, couldn't bear to watch. He turned and buried his head in his girlfriend's side. But he still tried to sound tough. "Hey, it's just a needle, no big deal. Don't hold my head. I'm not scared at all." Claire didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But in front of the giggling nurse, she played along, wrapping her arms around Leo Hammer Wallace's head to cover his eyes while cooing. Yes, you're not scared. You're the bravest. It's me who's scared and needs to hold on to you." This scene did not go unnoticed by the other Berkeley students in the clinic. Those who recognized the slaughterhouse couple were practically green with envy. Damn it, has their PDA field even invaded a sacred place like the hospital? Other guys who were there with their girlfriends tried to get in on the action. One of them turned to his girlfriend and pleaded, "Babe, can you hold me like that?" He got a smack on the back of the head for his troubles. "Hold your head? You say one more word, and I'll rip that needle right out of your arm." Leo had just gotten the 4-drip started when their friends from both dorms arrived, having heard the news. When they saw Leo sitting in the chair with the drip, they were all stunned. Wait a minute. Wasn't it Claire who had the fever? Why is Leo the one on in 4? Did you two get mixed up? Nurse, excuse me. I think you put the 4 in the wrong person. The one with the fever is still standing over there. Quinn was already turning to call for the nurse. The ever-helpful Molly was even quicker, rushing forward and nearly pulling the freshly inserted needle out of Leo's arm. Beside them, Claire, exasperated, quickly stopped her. "I'm all better now. It's Leo, who has a fever." The group finally understood, but that only made them more confused. "But weren't you guys being careful?" Claire was even wearing a mask. "Did you two sleep in the same room back at the slaughterhouse?" Claire shook her head and sighed. "No, we slept in separate rooms. It's just that this little idiot insisted on kissing me good night yesterday." The group had another moment of realization. The guys from room 520, Marco, Leon, and Dylan, looked at Leo, completely puzzled. "Leo, that doesn't sound like you. You knew Bertha Sue still had the flu, and you kissed her anyway?" Sitting in the chair, hooked up to the floor, Leo sighed. "I knew. I just couldn't help it." The three guys from room 520 subconsciously turned to look at Claire. Now fully recovered, Berkeley's it girl was radiant, her beauty even more striking than usual. Instantly, the three of them nodded in understanding. It's only human. Perfectly reasonable. Their friends had brought hot porridge and buns. After a brief visit, they all had classes to get to in the afternoon, so they said their goodbyes and left. Leo and Claire remained. Claire, worried that her boyfriend hadn't eaten lunch, wanted him to have some of the porridge and a bun to fill his stomach. But with the 4-drip, Leo was starting to feel drowsy again. So, Claire held off and sat down beside him, letting him rest his head on her shoulder. She gently cupped his right hand, the one with the 4, to keep it warm. Half an hour passed. Leo was still asleep. Claire didn't have the heart to wake him, but the porridge and bun she'd set aside were getting cold. She quietly got up, planning to take them to the water dispenser area to heat them up in the microwave. She heated the food and brought it back. Seeing her boyfriend still sleeping, she sat down beside him again, waiting patiently. Another half an hour or so went by. The porridge and bun were cold again. Figuring Leo might wake up soon, Claire decided to get up and reheat the food one more time. However, as she stood up this time, it was as if she suddenly realized something. Claire froze. 2 nights ago, at this very clinic, when she was the one with the fever and the 4-drip, the scene had been just like this. This moment now was just like that moment then. As sharp as she was, Claire easily put the pieces together and understood the real reason why her food had been perfectly warm that night. "You little idiot. You lied to me." As she thought this, she turned to look at her boyfriend sleeping soundly in the chair, her eyes filled with warmth. There was a kind of tenderness that needed no words, only the patient act of reheating food over and over in the cold of the night. Also, that your partner could have a warm meal the moment they woke up. When the first 4 bag was finished, the nurse came over to switch to the second one, waking Leo up. He looked at the perfectly warm porridge and bun his girlfriend was holding and was a little surprised. "How many times did you go heat this up?" Claire just smiled slightly. "Only once. I'm too lazy for that. Do you really think I have the energy to run back and forth reheating things?" That night, back at the LNS house, after washing up, Leo settled comfortably into the master bedroom's large bed. The 4-drip had helped him feel much better, but once he was under the covers, he inevitably started to feel drowsy again. He fought off the sleepiness to make a request to his girlfriend, who was sitting beside him on the bed. "Sing me a song to help me sleep." Claire was exasperated. "How old are you? You still need someone to sing you to sleep? Aren't you embarrassed?" Leo whined, "I don't care. If you don't sing, I can't sleep." In public, he was the CSO of Happy Nest, the big boss of Mako Entertainment, the reliable pillar his subordinates depended on. But in private with his girlfriend, who cared about keeping up appearances? The patient is king. He was sick with a high fever. Wasn't he allowed to be a baby for a day? It turned out that being shameless worked. Berkeley's it girl couldn't refuse her boyfriend's pestering. She told him to cover up, close his eyes, and go to sleep. She sat by the bed, thought for a moment, and chose a nursery rhyme, singing softly. "Dark, dark sky hangs low. Bright, bright stars follow. Bugs fly, who are you thinking of?" It was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The night air was cool, the moonlight as quiet as water. Accompanied by the girl's sweet, gentle singing, the man on the bed gradually drifted off to sleep. Claire gently patted the blanket in time with the rhythm, her gaze soft and warm as she looked at her boyfriend, her humming soft and continuous. "Stars in the sky are crying. Roses on the ground are dying. Cold wind blows, as long as you are here." The slaughterhouse couple took turns being sick. By the time they were both finally recovered, the calendar had, without them noticing, turned to December. Autumn deepened. The leaves on the trees along the city streets gradually turned golden and floated to the ground. In the first part of this new month, the Blockhead Workshop's business grew even more prosperous. Through the workshop and Mia's maternity, the Mako Blockhead brand gradually spread, making a name for itself in the city. Other stores even started approaching them to discuss potential partnerships. Back in Northwood, Robert Wallace was practically buried in work at the mold factory, but he was happily exhausted. As for Happy Nest, with the personal endorsement of the newly appointed Governor Zhao Bojun last month, its position in the city had become even more secure. It was gradually taking on the air of a true industry giant, rooted not just in the city, but in the entire southern province. But they couldn't afford to be complacent. The threats from their rivals still loomed. Apex Group's Apex Social had officially launched. While competing with Nexus's Weibo for resources and user traffic, the various minigames they had copied from Happy Nest were also building up their own player bases. Deterred by Governor Zhao's unexpectedly direct endorsement, both Apex Group and the Quad were hesitant to resort to underhanded tactics for the time being. But the head-to-head competition was a force to be reckoned with, and a threat that couldn't be underestimated. For now, however, all the swirling undercurrents and hidden storms seemed to have no effect on the Slaughterhouse couple. As the days quietly slipped by into mid-December, it also happened to be the one-year anniversary of their relationship. It was a coincidence. On this particular Friday, the friends from both dorms were having dinner together at the old campus dining hall when Molly happily mentioned that her one-year anniversary with Leon was coming up and they were planning to celebrate. Jade, sitting beside her, adjusted her glasses and casually remarked, "Claire, Leo, isn't your one-year anniversary coming up soon too?" Everyone had a sudden realization. The two couples from the dorms, the Slaughterhouse couple and the date cake guy with his novelist girlfriend, had started dating around the same time. Back then, Leo and Claire had run into the fugitive Gavin Zhang while out in the city. Leo got injured and spent a few days in the hospital. It was during those few days that Leon had worked up the courage to ask Molly out on a date. After 2 dates, he officially confessed his feelings, and they became a couple. By that calculation, their anniversary should be just a little after Leo and Claire's. Leo and Claire looked at each other. Yeah, it should be around now. They certainly remembered the circumstances. It was in mid-December, after the first snow, when they confessed their feelings to each other in the old stone chapel on Serenity Peak, in front of the Bodhisattva statue. But as for the exact date, Claire was a bit hazy. Leo, however, had recently reread his girlfriend's strategy guide and remembered the date recorded for that day at the chapel. He thought for a moment. I think it was December 14th. Claire's memory was jogged. Yes, that was the day. Their friends stared at them for a second, then slapped their thighs. December 14th. Today's the 13th. That means it's tomorrow. A wave of excitement went through the group. They all insisted that they had to celebrate the Slaughterhouse couple's anniversary properly tomorrow. Leo and Claire had no objections. But the reminder gave Claire an idea. That night, after they returned to the LNS house and were lying in bed, the mistress of the singles Slaughterhouse nestled in her boyfriend's arms and proposed, "Let's go back to the chapel tomorrow, for our one-year anniversary, to give thanks." Leo, of course, had no issue with his girlfriend's request and happily agreed. So, the next day, as Saturday, the couple had breakfast at home and then drove off. The first snow of the year had come later than last year. It was late autumn, verging on early winter. The air was crisp and cold, but the first major snowfall had yet to arrive. The branches of the trees along the road were dusted with a touch of frost. As the Maybach's wheels rolled forward, the couple chatted idly. They both felt a sense of wonder. In the blink of an eye, another winter had come. Holding the steering wheel, Leo seemed to remember something and said casually, "Thinking back, we should probably thank that John guy. If he hadn't escaped and we hadn't run into him, I wouldn't have ended up in a hospital, and we wouldn't have gone up to Serenity Peak. We probably wouldn't have gotten together so quickly." Those words immediately made the woman in the passenger seat beside him raise her eyebrows. From junior year of high school to our first year of college, over half a year to confess, and you call that fast? So, what you're saying is you have to thank him for stabbing you. If you hadn't been stabbed, you wouldn't have confessed. Her gaze, now filled with a cold, murderous intent, shot toward him. Leo shuddered and quickly changed his tune. "Of course not. I was just kidding. Who would thank that Gavin Zhang? To hell with Gavin Zhang." A short while later, the Maybach arrived at their first destination, the east gate of the old campus. Today, the couple was going to the chapel on Serenity Peak to give thanks, but they weren't going alone. After hearing their plans last night, their friends from both dorms got excited and insisted on coming along to see the place where the Slaughterhouse couple officially got together. They wanted to pay homage to it like a sacred site. Besides the Maybach, their friends had brought 2 other cars, Quinn's little BMW and Jade's Jeep Wrangler. There was plenty of room for everyone. In fact, 2 cars would have been enough. The main issue was Quinn's infamous reputation as a driver. Not a single one of their friends dared to ride in her death trap on wheels. Jade's Wrangler easily fit Leon, Dylan, and Molly. Before getting in, they waved enthusiastically at Marco. "Marco, what are you waiting for? Get in." But Marco stood between the Jeep and the BMW, his expression shifting. Finally, with a grimace, he made a resolute decision. "It's too crowded over there. I'll go with Quinn." Then, under the stunned gazes of his dorm mates, he calmly got into Quinn's little BMW. Quinn raised her chin smugly. "See? Someone appreciates my driving skills." She then happily got into the car as well. The scene left everyone else dumbfounded. Leon and Dylan were in shock. Holy shit, has Marco lost his mind? What happened to him? Does he have a death wish? Jade was also slightly puzzled, her eyes thoughtful behind her glasses. Molly, next to her, wasn't as analytically sharp as her brainy friend, but she had her own kind of radar. She wrinkled her nose. Something's not right. Why do I smell a hint of PDA? Of everyone there, only the Slaughterhouse couple knew the real story. Leo couldn't help but marvel at the sight. He turned to his girlfriend and remarked, "I see it now. Marco's in love for real." Once everyone was assembled, the 3 cars and 8 people set off for Serenity Peak on the eastern outskirts of the city. 40 minutes later, the cars were ascending the mountain. They parked halfway up, leaving a short walk to the top. When they passed the famous snowy clearing of the Buddha's Terrace viewpoint, they were a little disappointed not to see the unique natural wonder in its full glory, as the first snow had yet to fall. But their disappointment was quickly forgotten. A few minutes later, they arrived at the entrance of the old stone chapel. Looking at the ancient, elegant gate and the hanging plaque, their friends were full of awe and praise. So this is where Claire and Leo confessed to each other. The holy land of the Slaughterhouse couple, the birthplace of the infamous PDA distributors, the source of all evil. The compliments started to go off the rails. Thinking about the past year of the Slaughterhouse couple's reign of terror on campus, a shiver went down their spines. They started looking at the chapel's plaque differently. "So, it was you who brought these 2 monsters together, huh? Do you have any idea the immense psychological trauma you've inflicted on Berkeley? Stone Chapel, my ass. Should just call it the Slaughterhouse Chapel." After a round of complaints at the entrance, they stepped inside. The towering, ancient pine and cypress trees in the courtyard, the solemn Buddha statue in the main hall, and the tranquil, incense-filled air immediately shifted their mood, inspiring a sense of reverence for the chapel. As expected of the place that witnessed the birth of the Slaughterhouse couple, this chapel really was something special. Claire led her dorm mates from room 205 into the main hall, telling them the story of the Bodhisattva and recounting the events that had taken place there a year ago. The girls listened with rapt attention, occasionally letting out sighs of envy and admiration. They were so moved they were on the verge of tears. The guys, meanwhile, stood in the courtyard with Leo, listening to his vivid, animated account, their faces lighting up with amazement. "Whoa, badass. Ah, Leo, you're hilarious." The atmosphere was full of laughter. Inside, the girls were in the middle of a touching moment, only to have the mood shattered by the raucous laughter from outside. They all turned to glare at the guys. The guys, catching their glares, immediately shrank back. "It's nothing, you guys continue. We'll keep it down." Then they turned back to Leo, eagerly asking, "So, Leo, what did you do exactly? Show us the exact spot where you confessed and almost knelt. And don't just point. Why don't you reenact it for us?" The girls' faces darkened. They exchanged a look, coming to the same deadpan conclusion. Boys are all pigheads. Now that they were at the chapel, having experienced its serene atmosphere and heard the stories from Leo and Claire, their friends from both dorms were inspired to offer their own prayers. They took incense sticks and went into the main hall to bow before the Bodhisattva. Leon and Molly were first. The date cake guy and the novelist knelt on the cushions, holding their incense and bowing devoutly 3 times. The Bodhisattva statue in the hall looked down at the sincere young couple, a benevolent smile on its face. Even when Leon helpfully placed 2 date cakes in the incense burner, the Bodhisattva's smile didn't falter. The sentiment was what mattered. It was a generous deity. Next, it was Quinn's turn. As she knelt on a cushion, she seemed to casually glance at a certain someone next to her. A moment later, Marco nonchalantly sidled up. "Oh, is this cushion free? I don't really believe in this stuff, but since I'm here." He knelt down with an air of reluctance. But when it was time to offer the incense, his demeanor changed completely, and he started muttering, "Bodhisattva, you're a magnanimous being. Just pretend what I said was a fart and don't take it to heart. Please protect me." The Bodhisattva, it had seen plenty of demons and monsters. This was the first time it had seen a two-faced freak. When the third pair, Jade and Dylan, came up, Dylan was perfectly respectful and devout. The Bodhisattva smiled benevolently, feeling this young man had a future in a monastery. He'd be a natural at taking a vow of silence. However, when Jade stepped forward, she didn't rush to place her incense in the burner. She looked up at the Bodhisattva statue, examining it closely. Then she looked again, sizing it up from top to bottom. She looked less like a faithful devotee and more like a scientist studying a lab rat. The Bodhisattva's smile grew a little stiff under her scrutiny. Then they heard Jade ask curiously, "Does this really work? I heard Bodhisattvas help all living beings. If I'm short on cash and scrape a little gold dust off your body to help myself out, you wouldn't get mad, right?" It wasn't about greed. It was a purely academic question. The Bodhisattva. Danger. The first three groups had already left the Bodhisattva feeling frazzled, its divine composure nearly cracking. When the fourth and final group, the slaughterhouse couple, stepped forward, the Bodhisattva statue of the old stone chapel nearly sounded the alarm. Danger! 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 These two are on another level. The couple in question remained oblivious, holding their incense as they knelt and bowed 3 times. Claire was as meticulous as ever, bowing 3 times, then 3 again. Just like last year. When it was Leo's turn to place the incense, he stood before the burner, raised the stick toward the statue, and said, "My respects. The rest is up to you." The Bodhisattva, is he making a toast? When Claire stepped forward and placed her incense in the burner, she looked up at the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva struggled to control its non-existent trembling pupils, wanting to look away, but unable to. Claire didn't say much. She just thought for a moment and offered a word of encouragement. "You should keep up with your training. It has to, doesn't it? It'll need to fight the Trinity someday." With that, Claire turned to leave, but then, as if remembering something, she stopped and turned back. "Oh, by the way, the Bodhisattva, suspicious. JPG. Then, the young woman took out a pendant she wore around her neck. It was a pair of interlocking platinum rings, now strung together on a red thread of destiny. Claire held up the pendant for the Bodhisattva to see and said casually, "I met a young monk at the Orchard of Fate Temple a while back. He helped me with this. Just thought I'd show you." The Bodhisattva statue's gaze seemed to fall upon the pendant. It appeared to freeze for a moment. Then, the benevolent smile slowly spread across its lips, a smile filled with compassion. There was no other visible change, but a gentle breeze seemed to stir outside, causing the prayer bells hanging from the eaves to tremble and chime melodiously. The ancient pine in the courtyard swayed gently, as if in response. The distant toll of a great bell echoed through the air. A profound, sacred energy seemed to rise from the temple, filling the sky and swirling around the pendant in the young woman's hand. It was a feeling of peace, tranquility, and solemn meditation. Their friends, who had no idea what was happening, looked around in astonishment, deeply moved. "Whoa, this place. It's really something else, isn't it?" Leo walked over to his girlfriend's side. "What's wrong?" Claire looked up at the Bodhisattva statue in the hall, then down at the pendant in her hand. She smiled slightly and put it away. "It's nothing. Let's go." That day, after coming down from the mountain, the group had dinner in the city. They even ordered a small cake to celebrate the slaughterhouse couple's anniversary. Later that night, they found a KTV and sang in a private room. Since they had to drive, they didn't order any alcohol. But the room was filled with enthusiastic singing, and the atmosphere, under the glow of the neon lights, was still intoxicating. They sang their hearts out. Late at night, they settled the bill and left the KTV. The city was still brightly lit and bustling with life. They stood on the street corner in the late autumn wind. Above them, the moon was bright, neon signs flickered, and in the distance, the flow of traffic was a river of light. Claire wrapped her arms around Leo's waist and tilted her head up to look at him. In that moment, her radiant smile was so beautiful it seemed to outshine the entire glittering cityscape. "Leo, happy 1 year." Leo smiled back. "Yeah, happy 1 year." On that street corner, under the bustling night sky, the young couple's kiss was like a painting, timeless and everlasting. The first snow of the season fell, blanketing the city in a layer of silver white. Today was the 1-year anniversary for the date cake guy, Leon, and the novelist, Molly. After class, the friends from both dorms gathered at the LNS house for a celebratory dinner. The 9th unofficial member of their group, Lily Lou, even managed to take a break from her family's business to join them. As the boisterous group ate hot pot at the single slaughterhouse, Lily smiled and mentioned, "My birthday's this weekend. I've already booked a private room at a KTV downtown. You all have to come." Everyone enthusiastically agreed. Last year, the only ones from the group who had attended Lily's birthday were the Slaughterhouse couple and Marco. Remembering what happened at that party, Marco shuddered. Is it going to be at a KTV again this year? Singing karaoke was fine, but Lily's birthday, plus a KTV party. It felt like a bad omen, like something chaotic was bound to happen again. Lily laughed. "We'll see. Besides, what are the odds of something going wrong on my birthday every single year?" As soon as she said it, everyone at the table subconsciously looked at the master and mistress of the slaughterhouse, a shared sense of dread washing over them. Maybe not on your birthday, but when the magnets for trouble are involved, all bets are off. The slaughterhouse couple, busy serving each other food, looked up. "Huh, what are you guys talking about?" Everyone shook their heads in unison. Nothing. We were just complimenting you." Jokes aside, seeing the two of them put their minds at ease. If any trouble did come their way, these two had a proven track record of handling it. Any idiot who dared to mess with them had to be completely out of their mind. After a satisfying meal, the group lounged comfortably on the living room sofas, chatting idly. Leo and Claire were naturally nestled together, and Molly was cozied up in Leon's arms. Marco was sitting on the floor, leaning back against the sofa cushion, his head coincidentally about to rest on Quinn's leg. A few pairs of eyes casually drifted over. The next second, the lightning-fast Quinn lifted her long leg and kicked Marco away. "Hey, what are you doing? I don't have anywhere to put my leg," she scolded righteously. Marco, who had nearly face-planted on the carpet, scrambled up. My bad. I wasn't paying attention." He quickly moved to sit next to his Gotham brother, Dylan, and slung an arm around his shoulders with an air of righteous conviction. "I was just trying to sit with Dylan." Dylan looked at Marco with a face full of suspicion and distrust. It wasn't just his imagination. For the past month or so, his Gotham brother had been showing clear signs of betrayal. He was certain Marco was out fooling around with someone. He could even smell some woman's perfume on his clothes right now. And why did it smell so much like Quinn's perfume? Wait a minute. A spark of insight flashed in Dylan's mind. He began to think logically. So, if we exclude Quinn, who else uses this same perfume? The group got together almost every week, so tonight's dinner at the L&S house was just a regular hangout. There were no special plans. They had a few drinks, played some poker. Someone suggested watching a pornographic DVD, but the idea was quickly shot down. Slightly buzzed and drowsy, they were too lazy to even talk much, so everyone just pulled out their phones to surf the web. Surprisingly, the girls, who had recently been obsessed with the makeup and fashion-sharing feature on Happy Nest, had all started playing Garden Grab again in the last few days. They were back to planting and raiding crops, having a great time. Part of the reason was Isabella Zhao's enthusiastic and persistent promotion. With fewer of her friends playing the game, the top-tier Garden Grab fanatic couldn't find anyone else's crops to raid. For her own enjoyment, she had transformed from a player into a one-woman promotional team, pulling everyone she knew back into the world of virtual farming. She deserved an official title like Garden Grab Ambassador. The other reason was a new feature that Garden Grab had just launched, the Charity Farming Initiative. For every 1,000 cabbages a player harvested in their virtual farm, Happy Nest would donate one real fruit tree to an impoverished region. This wildly imaginative marketing strategy was, once again, a game-changer in the domestic internet landscape. It completely stunned both users and competitors. Holy shit, you can do that! Their rivals' faces turned greener than if they'd eaten a pile of manure. But that didn't stop countless old players from returning to the game with renewed passion. Before, it was just a way to kill time. Now, they could contribute to a good cause just by playing. It was a win-win. As a result, in the 3 short days since the charity event launched, the number of online users for Garden Grab soared to a new peak, a full 37% higher than its previous all-time high. Everyone at the L&S house was full of praise for the idea. Lily, who knew about Leo's role as CTSO of Happy Nest, shot him a subtle, knowing glance with a raised eyebrow. It meant, "Your work again? Impressive." Leo returned a light-hearted look and made a shushing gesture. "Keep it quiet. It's a secret." Beside him, Claire hadn't noticed the silent exchange between her boyfriend and her maid of honor. She was frowning slightly, also thinking about the topic at hand. Although her past life had been focused on Sterling Holdings' physical industries, and she didn't know much about the internet sector, she still knew that the charity tree planting marketing strategy was something that had originated from Alibaba's ant forest. She could try to explain it away as the butterfly effect of her own rebirth, but the doubt lingered. A faint intuition told her that it wasn't as simple as just the butterfly effect. Could it be When a certain thought flashed through her mind, it was enough to make Claire freeze for a rare, stunned moment. Perhaps I'm not the only butterfly. With the launch of the nationwide charity farming initiative, Garden Grab experienced a massive resurgence in popularity online. It was the talk of the internet, receiving overwhelmingly positive reviews. Industry experts and commentators were hailing this move by Happy Nest as a classic, textbook case of brilliant marketing. And the mastermind behind it all was, without a doubt, the mysterious and low-profile CSO of Happy Nest's light and dark twin stars, who had yet to make a public appearance. The buzz and speculation surrounding him reached a fever pitch once again. Apex and the Quad couldn't sit still any longer. Deterred by the presence of the city's top official, they were hesitant to use any underhanded tactics for the time being. But they never expected to be so completely outmatched in a head-to-head competition. The farm games they had painstakingly copied were being utterly decimated by their rival. They were losing users in droves, many of whom had been loyal fans of Apex and the Quad. Everyone was flocking to the charity farming gimmick. The Quad was particularly incensed. Their hatred for Happy Nest's mysterious CSO grew. They suddenly remembered their star agent, the one they had sent to be a spy in the Portland office. They immediately contacted her and laid into her. "We sent you to gather intelligence for months. What have you found out? If you're just going to waste time, what's the point of having you, Serafina Vance?" Getting an earful over the phone, Serafina herself was on the verge of tears. It wasn't that she hadn't tried. It was that Kevin Zhao was just too cunning. After half a year of hard work, she had only just realized it was all for nothing. She had been doing free labor for Happy Nest's Portland branch. How could she have known that this Kevin Zhao wasn't the Kevin Zhao she was looking for? This big boss of Mako Entertainment was just as devious as the real Happy Nest CSO. He was too deep. He had even planted his own alias in the Portland office. The harsh reprimands from the Quad's executives over the phone were relentless. Serafina gritted her teeth and made a solemn vow. "Please rest assured, I can't dig up anything from the Portland branch, but I'll find a way to transfer to East Bay. This time, I guarantee I'll get to the bottom of this Zhao character. And his connection to the Happy Nest CSO, I'll definitely figure out." Back at Mako Entertainment's headquarters in East Bay, Isabella Zhao, the head of the art department, was in high spirits. For one, her newly made friend from the Portland branch, Serafina, had mentioned that she might want to transfer to the East Bay headquarters. That meant they could finally meet in person and share all the secrets they knew about their boss, Kevin Zhao. Secondly, the recent charity tree planting event launched by Garden Grab had brought a flood of new and old players back to the game. Its popularity had surged, reaching a new all-time high. As a die-hard fan of Garden Grab, Isabella was even more excited about the game's resurgence than the actual Happy Nest employees. Her admiration for the Happy Nest CSO, who had reportedly masterminded this whole campaign, had reached its absolute peak. "This CSO, he's incredible. I declare that from this day forward, the Happy Nest CSO is my #1 idol." She had just made this solemn declaration to her colleagues when she looked up and saw a familiar figure walking in from outside. She froze and quickly backpedaled. "I mean, boss, don't get me wrong. I meant that the Happy Nest CSO is my second most admired idol. You, boss, will always be #1 in my heart." Leo, who had just walked in, was taken aback for a moment. When he realized what she was saying, he just waved his hand. "Whatever. It's fine." He had come to the Mako Entertainment headquarters today for business. It was mainly about the design plans for the blockhead figures. The blank blockhead figures were selling like hotcakes at the Blockhead Workshop and Mia's maternity. But the specially designed models were also moving forward steadily. The first few models based on the Battle Through the Heavens IP had been designed, and his father back in Northwood had already produced the first batch of samples at the mold factory. They had been shipped to East Bay, and Leo had looked them over. There were no issues. In fact, he was very satisfied. This gave him a new idea. Just producing a few character models was too limiting. Why not design more? They could launch the first batch with 6 or 7 regular models, and then add a couple of hidden, secret models. Instead of selling them openly, they could be randomly inserted into the packages, letting fans try their luck. In other words, blind boxes. When Leo proposed this idea at the company, the sharpest mind in the room, Yvonne Moreau, was the first to grasp it. Her eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea," she exclaimed, looking at Leo with pure admiration. "You're amazing, Leo." She didn't need any further explanation. She could instantly see the potential of the blind box concept and how it would be a massive sales driver for the blockhead figures. Beside her, Isabella Zhao was still confused. "Blind box? What does that mean? So you design 2 more figures, but don't sell them openly, You make customers try their luck? Ugh, isn't that just tricking people out of their money? Who would fall for that? This time, Leo didn't even have to explain. He just gave Yvonne a look. Gibberish Girl understood immediately and gave her senior, Isabella, a simple example. Let's say Garden Grab introduces a feature where you can collect fertilizer items. The basic to king grade fertilizers are regular items, but there are also two hidden ones, Immortal Grade and Ghost Grade. Before she could finish, Isabella was already on her feet, trembling with excitement. For real? There's Immortal and Ghost Grade? How did I not know? How much do they cost? I have to have them. The next second, the realization hit her. Oh, I get it now. Boss, you're a genius. These blind boxes are going to make a fortune. Isabella Zhao, the it girl of the arts department. Not always the sharpest tool in the shed. But when it comes to knowledge related to Garden Grab, her IQ jumps by 100 points. After giving Isabella and Yvonne their new assignment for the blind box designs at Mako Entertainment, Leo left the office and made a stop at the Happy Nest headquarters. The company was a completely different place now. With Governor Zhao's endorsement, David Chung was tempted to have the 8-word commendation, Pioneers of Technology, the standard for East Bay, cast in gold and hung above the company entrance. Even without such a flashy display, Happy Nest now had enough prestige to command respect throughout the city's business, political, and even underworld circles. Before, there were always petty troublemakers lurking around the company entrance, causing occasional problems. Now, the 1-kilometer radius around the building was so clean you couldn't even find a mouse. The local police precinct had even assigned officers to patrol the area regularly. They would casually stroll by the Happy Nest building, and they had become so friendly with Shun Shur and his crew of retired soldiers that they were practically an unofficial extension of the company's security force. Leo went up to the second floor and entered the CEO's office. David Chung looked up as he walked in and said, "We're getting ready to move the headquarters." Leo had been taken aback by David's abrupt announcement. Now, as his partner explained, he began to understand the situation. It was, in short, good news. Months ago, after the first round of hiring, the company's various departments had expanded, and the building on Wanning Road was already getting cramped. They had to rent temporary office space in other parts of the city, but even that wasn't enough. Many employees were still working from home. Now, with the company continuing to grow, new departments being created, and a second round of hiring planned, the 3-story building was truly bursting at the seams. David had mentioned this to Leo a few months back. At the time, a city department had offered to provide them with dedicated office space, but Happy Nest was swamped with other matters, and the space issue wasn't yet critical, so the matter was dropped. Now, it had become an urgent problem. On top of that, Governor Zhao Bojunt's recent personal visit had sent a clear signal to the entire city administration. Now, every department was practically falling over themselves to curry favor with Happy Nest. As a result, much better offers were being laid on David's desk, practically for free. Among them, one option was the most enticing: the downtown CBD, the East Bay Global Financial Center in Lujiazui. It was just completed at the end of August this year. 101 floors. It just surpassed the Jinmao Tower as the tallest building in the country. The Park Hyatt Hotel just moved into floors 79 to 93 in October. Above that, from 94 to 100, is the world's highest observation deck. Floors 7 to 77 are high-end commercial office space. The city officials have let us know that if we're interested, we can have our pick of 1 or 2 floors at a 30% discount. Each word that came out of David's mouth was enough to make one's heart race, filled with immense temptation. Even Leo couldn't help but draw in a sharp breath. The sudden, massive piece of good news made his head spin. It was truly a windfall. The East Bay Global Financial Center, in both his past life and this one, was an iconic landmark representing the pinnacle of this international metropolis. It was the highest form of recognition countless entrepreneurs dreamed of. To be frank, given Happy Nest's current size and status, it was a bit of a stretch for them to qualify for such a top-tier office building. But because of the company's immense future potential, coupled with the personal endorsement from the city's top official, Happy Nest had been given this incredible opportunity. Shaken, Leo took a sip of tea to wet his dry throat. He looked up and saw David speaking with an air of righteous indifference. "Of course, we don't have to move. It's just a global financial center, after all. We at Happy Nest have always valued a steady, stable approach. A little perk like this is hardly worth my attention." Leo shot him a sidelong glance and pointed out mercilessly, "David, you're smiling so hard your face is about to crack." Then, he himself adopted a calm and composed expression. "Indeed, it's just the global financial center. Without the corresponding policy benefits and support, I, Mr. Wallace, am not particularly impressed either. David deadpanned back. Wipe the drool off your chin before you say that. The two co-founders awkwardly looked down and quickly composed themselves. Then they looked up again, meeting each other's gaze. So, are we doing this or not? David asked, his own voice a little hoarse. Leo took a deep breath and answered without hesitation. We're doing it. Once the two co-founders had reached an agreement and officially decided on the move, David stepped out of his office and gathered the company's mid- and high-level managers. Without bothering to hide it from the other employees who were frantically trying to eavesdrop, he made a simple announcement. And then the entire company erupted. Cheers and shouts of joy rippled through the three-story building like a tidal wave. Leo couldn't help but smile. A startup internet company, less than a year old, had established itself in the city and was now moving into the country's tallest commercial office building, securing a place for itself in that iconic landmark. This achievement was enough to boost the morale, pride, and sense of honor of every single employee to its absolute peak. However, they couldn't afford to become complacent. Before leaving the headquarters, Leo spoke with David privately for a while longer. The internet industry is like this. One moment you're on top of the world, a rising star, everything is booming. But one wrong step, and the whole thing can come crashing down just as quickly. We rode the wave of the internet boom to get here. We caught a lucky break with Governor Zhao's support. But with great power comes great responsibility. Every step we take from now on has to be even more careful, even more steady. We can't let my mentor down, and we can't let down all our own hard work. Now that we've reached this height, we have to use this platform to make our voices heard and do more of what needs to be done. David's expression grew serious. He nodded slowly and solemnly. Don't worry, I understand what's at stake. We'll ramp up the charity farming initiative and won't tolerate any shortcuts. The other projects are also moving forward. The rumor control mechanism and the disaster response platform are at the top of our annual plan. This won't be an easy road, but we'll keep each other in check and keep moving forward together. Leo nodded as well. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll give you my full support. David remembered something. Oh, by the way, the governor is holding another entrepreneur symposium this month. Why don't you? Before he could finish, Leo cut him off without a second thought. Not going. David, what happened to your full support? Leo replied with a straight face. I was just saying that. David. In the soon-to-be vacated Happy Nest headquarters, the familiar scene of the CEO furiously chasing the CSO played out for the umpteenth time. David Chung had his reasons for wanting Leo to attend the second entrepreneur symposium hosted by Governor Zhao Bojan. It wasn't about exposing the true identity of his company's CSO. After all, there would be dozens, if not hundreds, of people from the city's business community at the meeting. As long as Leo didn't openly declare his identity and just acted as David's subordinate, no one would pay him any mind. Moreover, this was a symposium personally convened by the governor. There was no room for error. With Leo there, David felt he would at least have someone to consult for analysis. If the governor called on him, he'd feel more confident. To be frank, David had only met the governor once and shaken his hand. But his CSO had a mentor-student relationship with the man, having had tea at his home multiple times. Hell, he had even shamelessly made off with 2 fruit baskets. With that connection, things would surely go more smoothly at the symposium. But for Leo, refusing to attend also had its own logic. Setting aside the lazy, work-avoidant reasons that were likely to get him beaten up, he knew that while this symposium was a big deal to outsiders, he had already discussed all of Happiness' major plans in depth with his mentor. The symposium was merely a public signal from the governor, a statement that his new administration would focus on economic development and technological innovation. Much of the substantive content had already been settled behind the scenes. Go would just mean being a figurehead. He could go or not go. It was a job best suited for David, who needed to be the public face of Happy Nest. The CEO's presence would further solidify their status in the city's business community. Besides that, there was another reason. Leo had seen the name of the chairman of Sterling Holdings on the list of attendees. His cheap big brother. No, his cheap father-in-law was going to be there. A father-in-law and son-in-law meeting in that kind of setting would be incredibly awkward, especially since he sensed his father-in-law had been in a particularly foul mood lately. It was best to steer clear. Of course, he couldn't explain this second reason to anyone else. So Leo just clapped his co-founder on the shoulder with a sincere expression. I'm really busy those days. I can't help you with this one, but ask me for anything else and I'll definitely help. David had no choice but to accept it. Fine. Oh, in that case, why don't you take some of these logistics and financial reports back with you and look them over for me? Leo answered cheerfully, "Can't do that either. I'm a bit lazy, and looking at financial reports makes me sleepy." Then, he clapped David on the shoulder again with equal sincerity. "Can't help you with that one either, but next time for sure." "David, where's my knife? Hannah, give me my knife. I swear to God, I'm going to kill him today." It wasn't entirely an excuse. Leo really was busy lately. The first version of the Battle Through the Heavens co-branded blockhead figures from Mako Entertainment was out, and a lot of marketing and planning had to be done. Before the official launch, he sent a sample to the author, Potato. Potato was full of praise for the physical product. Then he heard about Leo's blind box plan for the hidden models. The still somewhat naive future king of web novels gasped. "Holy shit, you can do that?" He was genuinely impressed. "As expected of you, Brother Lin. With a business mind like yours, who else is going to get rich if not you?" However, as the author of the original novel, Potato also had some ideas for the hidden blind box models. He wasn't a business expert, but when it came to his own novel, the future web novel king was full of inspiration. He had a specific proposal for the hidden models. The reasonable couple. On the other end of the phone, Leo was stumped. A huge question mark appeared over his head. What the hell is that? Then Potato explained. The new reasonable twin flames he had created in the novel had just made their official debut. Along with them came the Do-Zun level couple who had first obtained the flames. They were nicknamed the reasonable couple. The man was handsome. The woman was coolly beautiful. Their love was deep, and they cultivated the reasonable flames together. After their debut in the Battle Through the Heavens story, they had become immensely popular with readers, despite being supporting characters. On the phone, Potato beat his chest and assured him, "Don't worry, Brother Lin. I'm being very careful to protect you and your girlfriend's privacy. Even your classmates and friends would never guess I'm writing about you, too." By this point, Leo had already pulled up the specific chapter on his phone and was reading it. His face was dark. "Yeah, right. One is named Su Ran, and the other is Lin Qingyan. It's so hard to guess who they're supposed to be." Setting aside the matter of the Battle Through the Heavens blind boxes for now, this weekend was Lily Lu's birthday party. All their close friends were invited and were preparing gifts in advance. Claire was enthusiastically planning to bake again, preparing a brand new baked masterpiece for her best friend and maid of honor. Fortunately, Lily got wind of it ahead of time and desperately pleaded with her. "That's too much. Just give me something normal. Save a grand gift like that for my 60th, no, my 80th birthday, or maybe when I'm on my deathbed." Chef Su regretfully abandoned the idea. Before the birthday party, on Friday, the city held its second entrepreneur symposium. The newly appointed Governor Zhao Bojun personally presided over the meeting. Attendees included giants and rising stars from every sector of the city's business community. Among them, naturally, were the chairman of Sterling Holdings and the CEO of Happy Nest. During the meeting, the governor laid out the city's industrial development plan for the next 3 years, promising that the city government would stand shoulder to shoulder with local enterprises and provide all possible support. His speech was met with enthusiastic applause. During the networking session after the meeting, the governor came down from the stage to chat with the local entrepreneurs. As the chairman of a leading local industrial enterprise, Charles Sterling was naturally a focus of attention. And the CEO of Happy Nest, who had recently received the governor's 8-word commendation, was also invited to the governor's side. Coincidentally, or perhaps reasonably, Chairman Sterling and CEO Chang met for the first time at this symposium, both standing before Governor Zhao Bojun. They had never met before. Now, upon their first meeting, they shook hands and exchanged pleasantries. They had a mutual admiration for each other. "Chairman Sterling, I've heard so much about you." "Mr. Chung, you're too kind. The influence of your company, Happy Nest, is what's truly remarkable." The two hit it off immediately. Chairman Sterling even humbly asked Mr. Chung about the possibility of a Happy Nest account being accidentally blocked, to which Mr. Chung, slightly surprised, beat his chest and promised to look into it and resolve the issue as soon as possible. Standing between them, Governor Zhao Bojun was a little surprised. "You two don't know each other?" Charles Sterling waved his hand breezily. "Today is the first time we've met." David Chung also smiled broadly. "Our first meeting, but I've long admired him from afar." Governor Zhao paused for a moment. Then, he seemed to quickly piece together the connections. A rare glint of amusement appeared in the eyes of the city's new top official. "This is a little interesting." At the East Bay Entrepreneurs Symposium, the chairman of Sterling Holdings and the CEO of Happy Nest were hitting it off famously, lamenting that they hadn't met sooner. They clicked, their conversation flowing with an easy rapport. During their chat, one man, with polite curiosity, couldn't help but inquire about the origins of the other company's co-founder and CSO. The other, though still somewhat protective of his partner's privacy, smilingly admitted that his CSO was indeed a young man, no older than his early 20s. This admission moved the first man to genuine admiration. "A true prodigy," he exclaimed. "Simply extraordinary." The second man, in turn, had already heard that his counterpart had a treasured daughter, a stunning beauty of immense talent, destined to be the successor to Sterling Holdings. He naturally returned the compliment with praise of his own. Hearing this, Chairman Sterling couldn't stop the broad smile from spreading across his face as he replied with practiced modesty. "Oh, not at all. My daughter is still a long way from taking over. She's just starting to handle some of the smaller businesses. She still has so much to learn." He sighed theatrically. "She's nothing compared to your brilliant young CSO, Mr. Chung." An idea sparked in David Cheng's mind. "We should introduce them sometime. They could exchange ideas, learn from each other." Charles Sterling was delighted and agreed enthusiastically. But then he remembered the annoying punk his precious daughter was officially dating, and he couldn't suppress another long sigh. Look at this CSO from Happy Nest. He needed to let his own kid. No, what kid? He needed to let that cheap punk of a son-in-law of his see what a truly outstanding young man looked like. David Chung, meanwhile, was beaming. He was already planning how he'd get his partner to thank him for this. The daughter of the Sterling chairman, the future head of the entire corporation. Most people would never even get a chance to meet her. Sure, his partner already had a girlfriend who was practically an angel, but in the business world, making connections with exceptional people always opened doors. It couldn't hurt. He found himself wondering, who was more impressive? The legendary daughter of Sterling Holdings, said to be a peerless beauty, or his partner's ethereal girlfriend? He was dying of curiosity. Lost in their own thoughts, the chairman of Sterling Holdings and the CEO of Happy Nest finally came back to themselves, only to realize with embarrassment that they had been ignoring the city's top official for quite some time. They rushed to apologize. "Governor Zhao, our sincerest apologies. We got so carried away, we completely forgot you were here. So sorry, so sorry." Zhao Bojun, a man whose gentle, scholarly demeanor belied his power, simply smiled and gave a dismissive wave of his hand. His tone was light. "Not at all. When the founder of East Bay's leading legacy enterprise and the founder of our rising star in the tech sector get along so well, it suggests a potential for future collaboration, doesn't it? That's precisely the kind of good news we in the city government love to see. I was quite happy just listening to you two." His words carried the high-level perspective and quiet authority of his office. As Charles Sterling and David Chung nodded in agreement, they failed to notice the subtle curve of the newly appointed governor's lips. Governor Zhao was discovering the simple joy of being in on the joke. It seemed that for the moment, only he knew the full story. He had two options. One was to help his young protege by nipping this potential danger in the bud. That's no fun. He decided on option two. After all, that little brat had shamelessly walked out of his house with two of his best fruit baskets last time. A warm, friendly smile spread across the governor's face as he offered a reasonable suggestion to the two pillars of East Bay's business community. "Since you're getting on so well, why don't you two exchange numbers and business cards? Count me in as well. We should all connect more often." As if waking from a dream, Charles Sterling and David Chung instantly pulled out their phones and cards. The governor is right. Perfectly reasonable. Having skipped the symposium, Leo Wallace naturally had no idea what had transpired there. But though he wasn't present, he sent a text to his mentor's protege after the meeting was scheduled to end, asking if the governor had any important directives from the conference. The reply came a few minutes later, concise and to the point. "Nothing to worry about. Everything's fine, and I prepared a little surprise for you." The first sentence was perfectly normal. The second made a question mark pop up over Leo's head. A little surprise, he instinctively thought of that classic line from Scarface. "Say hello to my little friend?" What the hell kind of surprise was that? He sent another text asking for clarification, but this time Governor Zhao didn't elaborate, simply replying with a breezy, "You'll find out soon enough, good grief." The text even ended with a tilde. Where was the gravitas befitting the city's top official? Leo felt a flicker of alarm, a vague sense that something wasn't quite right. But then he thought about it again. His partnership with the governor was going smoothly, and their chat in the study had been pleasant. Other than swiping two fruit baskets on his way out, he hadn't done anything else. A man of the governor's stature surely wouldn't hold a grudge over something so trivial. With that, he felt reassured. From the courtyard gate, he heard his girlfriend's call. Tonight was Lily Lou's birthday party, and the two of them were heading out to get her a gift. Leo called back, "Coming." He pocketed his phone and walked briskly out the door to meet her. That evening, at a small restaurant in downtown East Bay, the group gathered to celebrate Lily Lu's birthday. Compared to last year's extravagant affair, which filled 2 or 3 private rooms with guests, the birthday girl had opted for a simpler celebration this year. The party for her extended family, friends, and casual acquaintances, a purely social obligation, would be held another day. Tonight was an intimate gathering for her closest friends. The only guests invited were the gang from room 205 and room 520, along with Yvonne Moreau. Isabella Zhao had been on the list, but the day's beauty was working herself to the bone designing the blind box hidden figures and couldn't spare a moment. And it was all thanks to that black-hearted capitalist, Leo. It seemed that Potato, the author of Battle Through the Heavens, had personally reached out to Isabella with some ideas he wanted to see implemented. As the novel's #1 fan, being personally entrusted with a task by the great author himself had maxed out her work ethic. Rest? What was rest? The word didn't exist in her vocabulary. She was a born workaholic with a talent for pushing herself. You could say that Isabella Zhao had found her calling. Lily had also invited Anna and Wyatt Way to the party. But as if they caught Isabella's work bug, they were both still swamped with their own jobs, working too much overtime to even think about taking a break. When she called, it was a strange coincidence. Both of them seemed to be in an elevator, but one of them had sounded refreshed and energetic. The other, his voice sounded, recounting the story at the restaurant. Lily frowned, a little uncertain. He sounded a little beaten up. Inside the small restaurant's private room, all the friends had arrived. The waiter began bringing in the dishes, ready to serve. But Lily held up a hand to stop him, smiling as she spoke. Just a little longer. We're still missing one person. He should be here soon. Everyone else looked curious, but Claire and Leo exchanged a knowing glance. Well, not exactly. Only Bertha, Sue seemed to know what was going on. Leo Hammer Wallace was just pretending. He didn't last more than 3 seconds before leaning over to whisper to his girlfriend, "Who are we waiting for?" Claire didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She smacked her boyfriend's pig head. "You idiot." Before she could explain it to her pig-headed boyfriend, footsteps approached from outside. The door to the private room opened, and Clark Sterling walked in, looking a bit rushed. He clasped his hands apologetically. Sorry. There was traffic. I got out and ran the last block. Hope I didn't keep you all waiting." Seeing Clark, the rest of the group instantly understood. They waved their hands and laughed. No, we just got here. And Clark, come have a seat." They enthusiastically beckoned him over. Exchanging perfectly synchronized, knowing glances, they all stood up and scooted to the left, collectively shifting down one spot. Subtly, or not so subtly, they had cleared the seat right next to the birthday girl, Lily Lu. But while everyone else had shifted left, Yvonne Moreau remained stubbornly in her spot next to Lily. As Lily's junior in the same program, Yvonne felt closest to her and wanted to sit with her tonight. Her social radar was a bit off. Her manners, however, were excellent. She pointed to the empty seat next to her and called out to Clark, "Clark, you can sit here." Clark, ever the gentleman, just smiled and nodded, preparing to sit down next to Yvonne. But in the next second, Lily had deftly lifted her junior out of her seat. "No need. Yvonne, you can switch seats." Then she looked up at Clark and smiled. "You sit next to me." Just like that, poor Yvonne was plucked from her seat and sent on her way, still looking completely baffled. She looked at her senior, wondering why Lily, who was usually so close to her, didn't want to sit with her today. She frowned, thinking hard. Nothing. She scanned the table for another spot. Seeing a gap between Marco and Quinn, she started to walk over. Then I'll sit with Quinn. This time, it was Marco and Quinn who froze, momentarily unsure how to respond. A second later, thankfully, Claire moved with lightning speed and pulled Yvonne over. "It's too crowded over there. Yvonne, you can sit with me." You had to hand it to Claire. Some situations just required her touch. Otherwise, Yvonne III would have been running at full power all night. With the seating arrangement finally settled, Yvonne, now sitting next to Claire, was still confused. She leaned in and whispered, "Claire, are there special rules for seating at a birthday party?" Yvonne, the ever-diligent student, never missed an opportunity to learn. Claire couldn't help but laugh. "It's not a rule. You just happen to pick the 2 worst possible seats." She then had Yvonne lean closer and whispered a few words of explanation. Yvonne's face finally lit up with understanding. She looked at Lily and Clark, then at Quinn and Marco. She remembered how she once suspected Marco might have a thing for her. She felt a small wave of relief. Thank God, she had narrowly avoided a repeat of her previous social death. But then, another thought occurred to her. She turned back to Claire and Leo, whispering worriedly, "Then, is it inconvenient for me to sit next to you and Leo?" Claire was speechless. She glanced at her boyfriend, who was already single-mindedly digging into his food. The corner of her mouth twitched. Don't worry about us. You could sit on his head, and he wouldn't notice. Unlike last year's grand entrance in formal attire, this year Lily was dressed casually. The restaurant she'd chosen was modest, and the food, while not extravagant, was delicious. Surrounded by her close friends, the atmosphere was warm and joyful enough. The waiter brought out the birthday cake. It was time to make a wish. The group launched into a rowdy rendition of the birthday song, urging her to hurry up and make a wish. Lily smiled and closed her eyes, her hands clasped together. After a moment, she opened them and blew out all the candles in one breath, earning a round of applause. When her friends asked what she'd wished for, she just smiled mysteriously. It's a secret. Next came the gifts. One by one, everyone presented their presents. It wasn't about the price. It was the thought that counted. Clark gave Lily a pair of hand-knitted gloves and a bottle of hand lotion. He explained a little sheepishly, I remember Lily mentioning once that she gets cold easily and her hands get chapped in the winter. I figured this would be practical. I knitted the gloves myself. It was my first time, so they're a little crude. Marco leaned in for a look and gasped. Crude? Are you kidding me? Clark, you could be a professional tailor with skills like that. If this is crude, then all the stuff the girls here have knitted can be thrown straight in the trash. He spoke too soon. The next second, the sharp, murderous glares of every woman at the table shot toward him. Marco realized his mistake and quickly tried to backtrack with a nervous laugh. I was just kidding. Don't take it to heart. Ha ha ha, ouch. He sucked in a sharp breath. Beside him, Quinn calmly retracted her leg from under the table, her expression unchanged. Leo and Claire gave a joint gift. To be honest, they could have given nothing at all. For the birthday girl, the heroic act of her boyfriend intercepting a batch of Claire's homemade cookies was already a life-saving favor. When she opened the gift box from the lethal and savage couple, Lily's eyes lit up again. It was a pair of matching blockhead figurines. The female figurine had already been meticulously painted by Leo and Claire, a perfect cartoonish, cute version of Lily herself. Next to the mini Lily, however, the male figurine was still a blank white model, untouched. Claire smiled at her best friend and maid of honor. For when you find the one, you can paint him in yourself. Lily nodded, her gaze seeming to drift nonchalantly toward Clark beside her. She smiled. Yeah, perfectly reasonable. The birthday dinner left everyone full and satisfied, but their spirits were still high. It was still early, so after some discussion, the group decided to find a nearby KTV for some karaoke. Of course, with the triple debuff of Lily's birthday, the presence of the trouble magnet couple, and a KTV, it felt like they were practically guaranteed to run into some kind of bizarre trouble. At times like this, Molly, the romance novel expert, had the final say. Oh, come on, what are the odds of something like that happening to us all the time? Based on the novels I've read, an author can't just keep repeating the same plot device. What, is this a tragedy? Even in a tragedy, you need to find new ways to torture the characters. Otherwise, the readers would bury the author in razor blades. Her confident analysis was convincing. Besides, they were all young. They didn't go looking for trouble, but they certainly weren't afraid of it. They had survived a flash flood on Spirit Springs Mountain, a once-in-a-lifetime natural disaster. A trip to the KTV was hardly something to be timid about. What a joke. The Berkeley Spirit was all about being fearless. In fact, some of them were a little disappointed they hadn't been there last year to witness the thrilling events firsthand. Now they were all boasting that if some criminal gang showed up, they'd make short work of them. The guys, especially, were flexing in front of the girls. Just let them try. I could take on 10 of them myself. Compared to the loudmouths of room 520, the slightly older Clark Sterling was far more reserved. He just smiled gently and offered a word of caution, reminding them that if they really did encounter trouble, they shouldn't be reckless. Calling the police was always the safest option. His words earned nods of agreement from the girls. The guys, however, were unfazed. Marco threw an arm around Clark's shoulder. Clark, you're great and all, but you're just too mellow. If something happens and there's no time to call the cops, you have to step up, right? Be a man. You gotta be decisive. You need to be more aggressive. Clark just smiled and nodded, adding, well, if something really were to happen, I do know a little bit of boxing. Of course, no one took him seriously. Looking at his gentle, scholarly appearance, they couldn't possibly imagine him getting into a fight. The ever-loyal Leon immediately puffed out his chest. Don't worry. If there's trouble, I've got your back, Clark. The group laughed and joked. Leo and Claire stood to the side, smiling as they listened. There was really no need to worry. After last year's incident at the Dynasty Lounge, it wasn't just that KTV that got shut down for investigation. All entertainment venues in East Bay had been subjected to a thorough government crackdown. Plus, with the new governor having just taken office, no criminal organization will be foolish enough to make waves right now. They were all lying low. And there was one other thing. After the incident last year, the gang's leader, a man named Yin Chong, had been sent to prison. Word was he was receiving some special attention behind bars. The power to his cell would mysteriously go out every few days. And as for the remnants of his crew, rumor had it that a quiet man with steady eyes had single-handedly dismantled most of their operations, sending a shockwave through East Bay's underworld that left everyone terrified. Naturally, no one dared to cause trouble anymore. And who do you think ordered all of that? It's such a hard guess. Leo smiled and mentioned this to his girlfriend. Claire, hearing his words, turned her head away and looked up at the stars, feigning innocence. I don't know. Never heard of him. Not my business. She nonchalantly washed her hands of the whole affair. As the heir to the Sterling family fortune, she was certainly not the type to hold a petty grudge. If someone smashed a bottle over her boyfriend's head, she would, of course, choose to forgive them generously. They just needed to be more careful in the next life. Ultimately, the group chose a KTV nearby. They got a medium-sized room, and the moment they had the beer and fruit platters ordered, they were all fighting for the microphone. It turned out Molly's theory was correct. East Bay was peaceful and quiet this winter. A birthday trip to a KTV couldn't possibly lead to a run-in with a criminal gang every single time. The lights in the room flashed and the music pulsed. The atmosphere was electric. Some sang, while others played liar's dice and drank. Quinn and Marco were playing pool off to the side. Dylan had been eager to join them and show off his newly practiced skills, but in the next second, Yvonne, who had finally caught on and was determined to make amends, grabbed him and pulled him away. Quinn and Marco are playing pool. You shouldn't butt in, Dylan. Dragged away for no reason, Dylan was utterly confused. Question mark. What? He wasn't even allowed to play pool now? Partway through the night, the birthday girl, Lily, was in the middle of a song when her phone rang. She checked the screen. It was a work call. She quickly signaled to her friends. Instantly, the room fell silent. They watched as Lily answered the phone. Holding the microphone in one hand and her phone in the other, she began discussing business with the client on the other end. Throughout the call, she maintained a friendly smile, her thoughts clear and her speech calm and unhurried. Occasionally, she would tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, her face illuminated by the lights above, looking elegant and captivating. Compared to the dolled-up princess in the pink evening gown from a year ago, even in her casual attire today, she exuded a confident and composed aura that was even more admirable and enchanting. Her friends on the sofa couldn't help but whisper among themselves in amazement. Lily's changed so much compared to last year. She's still just as gentle, but she seems so much stronger now. Leo and Claire also watched her, their eyes filled with appreciation and pride. Leo smiled, thinking that the help he'd offered her had clearly been worth it. Claire smiled, too. The best friend and maid of honor she had chosen for herself was supposed to become this brilliant. The next second, she turned to her boyfriend and unceremoniously pinched his ear. I'm allowed to look. You're not allowed to stare at another woman for that long. When the call ended and Lily sat back down on the sofa, her friends swarmed her with praise and admiration. The way she had just handled that work call was a sight to behold. If anyone else on campus had seen it, they would have been utterly captivated. In just 1 year, she had matured, becoming more composed and understated, yet more brilliant and alluring than ever. In response to the compliments, Lily just smiled gently and shook her head modestly, saying it was nothing. A year had passed. Of course she'd grown. But the others disagreed. Not many people grow and change as much as you have in a year. Negotiating a partnership with Weibo on behalf of your family. In a few more years, you'll be a renowned female entrepreneur in East Bay. Molly's eyes were sparkling. Wow, that sounds so cool. I'm totally obsessed with novels about powerful female CEOs right now. Lily laughed again and shook her head. Partnering with Nexus was mostly just luck. I definitely couldn't have done it on my own. It was really thanks to the help of a certain someone. As she spoke, her gaze drifted nonchalantly toward a certain someone. Leo reacted instantly, scooting aside and pushing Clark's Sterling forward. That's right, it was Clark. Clark, caught completely off guard, froze for a second before frantically waving his hands. No, I just helped out a bit here and there, gave Lily some advice occasionally. She did all the hard work herself. The group didn't care about the details. They immediately started catcalling, telling the two of them to share a drink. Lily didn't hesitate. She graciously poured a drink for herself and for Clark, then raised her glass with a smile. A toast is definitely in order. Thank you so much for your help recently, Clark. And I hope you'll continue to guide me in the future. Clark's face flushed slightly as he quickly raised his glass to clink with hers. I wouldn't dare say guide, but if you need anything, I'm always here to help. Their glasses clinked amidst the cheers of their friends. They both tilted their heads back and finished their drinks in one go. As the birthday girl, Lily was in high spirits, accepting toast from everyone without refusal. By the time she was 6 or 7 drinks in, the party was still going strong. Just as a new song started playing on the karaoke machine, Lily, emboldened by the alcohol, stood up with the microphone, sat on a high stool, and began to sing along with the melody on the screen. Every time, I find strength in lonely wandering. Every time, even when I'm hurt, I don't shed a tear. I know I've always had a pair of unwritten wings to carry me flying over despair. It was unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, a song that had just been released in the summer of 2008 and had taken a nation by storm. As Lily sang, her voice was gentle yet filled with a determined strength. I finally see all my dreams blossoming. The pursuit of youth, how bright the song sounds. I'm finally soaring, gazing forward with my heart, unafraid. Wherever the wind takes me, that's how far I'll fly. Her friends on the sofa cheered and applauded, deeply moved. Yvonne's eyes sparkled. At this moment, Lily is practically glowing. Leo and Claire exchanged a smile. They could hear their friend's heart and soul in her voice, and they felt a genuine sense of pride and satisfaction for her. Amidst the applause, the lethal and savage couple quietly raised their glasses and clinked them together. We're doing great. We hope everyone around us can do better and better, too. After the song, Lily seemed to have had her fill of singing. She smiled and returned to her seat, where she joined her friends for several more rounds of drinks, becoming even more tipsy. Then, telling everyone to keep playing and singing, she got up and left the room to go to the restroom. On her way back from the restroom, she passed the KTV's outdoor terrace. She pushed the door open and stepped outside for some fresh air. The late-night winter wind cooled her face. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath. The crisp air cleared her head, chasing away some of the alcohol and leaving her feeling refreshed. When she opened her eyes again, she noticed snowflakes gently drifting down from the night sky. She held out her hand to catch one. Looking up, she saw a rare sight. A sky full of stars, vast and clear, that made her spirit soar. Gazing at the night sky, Lily smiled. It had only been a year, but it felt like a lifetime. The person she was now, she was doing really well. After a few moments, she turned to head back to the room, but she was stopped by a chaotic noise from not far ahead, punctuated by a woman's frightened cries. She looked toward the sound and saw several young men dragging a pretty girl, who was struggling desperately but couldn't break free. One of the men turned and saw Lily. He shot her a fierce glare and spat. "What are you looking at? Mind your own damn business." His threatening eyes and menacing gesture were eerily similar to the thugs from the Dynasty Lounge incident a year ago. The memory flooded back, and Lily froze in place. The men, thinking they had intimidated her, turned back to their task, dragging the girl toward a dark corner. But when the girl's terrified cries for help rang out again, Lily snapped back to reality. She took a deep breath. She strode purposefully toward them, grabbing a half-empty beer bottle from a nearby trash can along the way. She called out to the man who had threatened her. "Hey!" The man instinctively turned, ready to spew more threats. But before he could open his mouth, Lily swung the bottle with all her might and smashed it squarely on his forehead. Crack! The leader of the group crumpled to the ground, howling in pain. His two accomplices stood frozen in shock for a moment. Lily didn't hesitate. She grabbed the girl's arm. "Run!" The girl stammered her thanks and fled. The two accomplices, recovering from their shock, lunged at Lily with vicious expressions. Just in the nick of time, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Stop!" A figure rushed forward. A swift kick sent the first man sprawling onto his back. The other was grabbed, pulled off balance, and then, in a fluid motion, thrown over his shoulder with a powerful hip toss. Thud! He crashed to the ground, groaning in pain. The entire sequence was clean and decisive. Only then did Lily see that her rescuer was Clark Sterling. His expression was cold, his eyes sharp as a razor as he swept his gaze over the three men on the ground. "Get lost!" The leader, the one who'd been hit with the bottle, staggered to his feet, blood trickling down his forehead. He stared menacingly at Clark and Lily. "You dare hit me? Do you have any idea who I am? You don't want to be in business in East Bay anymore." Clark met his gaze without flinching and replied in a low, steady voice. "Clark Sterling of the Sterling family. I'm telling you my name. I don't care who you are. If you got a problem, you know where to find me. I'll be waiting." Hearing those words, the man's eyes widened in fear. Sterling, the Sterling family. His face paled. He didn't dare utter another threat. He scrambled to pull his two friends to their feet, and they fled in a panic. Only after watching them disappear did Clark's expression soften. He let out a quiet breath and turned to Lily, his voice filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Lily shook her head. She looked him up and down, raising an eyebrow. "So that's what you call a little bit of boxing?" Clark looked slightly embarrassed and waved his hand. "It was just the heat of the moment. But you were so brave. You went after them all by yourself with just a bottle." Lily paused, looking down at the bottle still in her hand. Then she started to laugh. It was a genuine, unrestrained laugh. The terrifying ordeal in the KTV room a year ago had not become a cage that imprisoned her. It had been a catalyst. Step by step, her experiences had given her the courage she needed. Having broken free of her shackles, her inner demons were finally vanquished. She had emerged from her cocoon, transformed. A brand new life. Clark didn't understand what she was laughing about, but then he remembered something, and his expression changed. "Oh, right, I was just trying to scare them. I told them my family name. You have to keep this a secret from Claire and Leo." He wasn't worried about much else. He was mainly worried about ending up in the gratitude journal of his magnanimous cousin and her boyfriend. Lily's smile turned mischievous. "A secret? All right. In exchange, you have to do one thing for me." Clark was taken aback. "What is it?" Under the night sky, she stretched lazily, as if shedding the last of her burdens. Then she looked up at him, her smile radiant. "Kiss me." Just then, the door to a nearby KTV room opened, and a loud love song poured out into the night, a grand, sweeping soundtrack for this winter evening. The next moment, before the stunned Clark could even process what she had said, a fragrant breeze washed over him. The it girl of the Berkeley Humanities Department rose onto her tiptoes, and with the courage of her drinks, she pressed her lips to his. Earlier, when she had blown out her birthday candles, she had made a wish she hadn't told anyone. Her wish was, after escaping my cage, to bravely pursue my own happiness. And now, perhaps, she had found it. With final exams looming in January, it was time to start hitting the books. But before that came a relentless barrage of holiday activities at the end of the month, a temptation too great to resist. This was especially true for the residents of Room 205 and Room 520. They had just celebrated the anniversaries of the Lethal and Savage couple and the Date Cake Guy and Novel Girl, followed by Lily's birthday. Next up were Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And after that, New Year's, which came with the university's traditional New Year's gala and other celebrations. The dilemma was clear: study for finals, or live in the moment and have some fun first. Marco confidently puffed out his chest and declared, "Of course we have fun first. A few measly finals are nothing. With my talent, I can just review a little and easily get into the top 3 in my class." His bold statement was immediately shot down by the others. "Yeah, right. That's what you said last year." Molly, the novel expert, provided a factual reference. "According to my calculations, the last time Marco made a boast like that was around chapter 168. The evidence was irrefutable. Marco had bragged that his GPA would be in the top 3, but it had ended up being 33rd. After some discussion, the group came to a decision. They would celebrate the holidays, but they wouldn't neglect their studies. There were still 4 or 5 days until Christmas Eve on December 24th. Kevin and Tessa from Portland had already made plans to come to East Bay to celebrate both Christmas and New Year's with everyone, just like last year. Until then, they would all buckle down and study hard. It wasn't just the 2 dorms that had decided this. Most of the students at Berkeley had the same idea. In the days leading up to Christmas Eve, the university library was packed 24 hours a day. Following last year's tradition, the group would normally gather at the LNS house to study together. But this year, something had changed. When the group arrived at the LNS house, backpacks and textbooks in tow, and stood in the living room of the single slaughterhouse, they looked around and realized a practical problem. There are too many of us. Are we sure we can all fit in here? It was true. Last year, with just the 8 of them, the living room had already felt a bit cramped for studying. Now, their little group had expanded to include Lily and Yvonne. That made 10 people. Oh wait, 11. Leo looked puzzled at Clark, who had unexpectedly tagged along today. "Clark, aren't you about to graduate? Why are you here studying?" Clark looked a little awkward and embarrassed. "Well, As he fumbled for an explanation, Lily stepped forward with a smile, subtly shielding him. "I asked him to come. I have some difficult questions in my major, and I wanted to ask for his help." Leo's face lit up with understanding, and he nodded readily. "Oh, I see. Well then, perfectly reasonable. The rest of the group rolled their eyes in unison. Reasonable my ass. Only Mr. Reasonable would think that's reasonable. Lily was a journalism major. What kind of questions would she need to ask a finance major like Clark? But come to think of it, since Lily's birthday party a few days ago, she and Clark did seem to be a little closer. The group frowned in confusion. Then, they remembered that the two of them had been in the private room with everyone else the whole time. Nothing had happened. Lily had gone to the restroom at one point, and Clark had followed a little later, but they had both come back quickly. What could have possibly happened in that short amount of time? It was impossible. It must have been their imagination. Yep, perfectly reasonable. Seeing her boyfriend being scorned by his friends, Claire smiled and proposed a new plan. If we can't all fit here at the LNS house, how about we go to the Blockhead workshop? You had to hand it to Claire. She had the sharpest mind in the group. The moment she said it, everyone else slapped their foreheads in realization. Of course, they had forgotten about the workshop. A little house like the single slaughterhouse was fine for parties, but it was too cramped for more than 10 people to spread out their textbooks and study materials. But the newly opened Blockhead workshop was a different story. The shop was 100 square meters, and the two long work tables were perfect for use as desks. They could easily accommodate more than a dozen people. Lately, with finals approaching, the number of student customers had dropped significantly. The Northwood High students who worked there also needed to study, so they might as well close the shop for a few days. They could temporarily convert it into their own private study hall. The decision was unanimous. The group shouldered their backpacks and marched over to the commercial street by the east gate of the university. When they arrived at the Blockhead workshop, they found it much quieter than before. There were only 2 employees on duty, and even they were taking advantage of the lull to study their own textbooks. Leo walked over and waved his hand, letting his 2 juniors go home early. When the boss and the boss's wife were in, the employees deserved a break. The rest of the group let out a cheer and rushed to the long tables. A study table this long was a huge improvement over the library. Leo was about to lock the door and flip the sign to temporarily closed when a few Berkeley students walked up. He smiled and explained, "We're closed for the next few days. If you want to make a figurine, please come back later." The students looked disappointed. "Oh, really? We were planning to make 20 or 30 of them as Christmas gifts for our classmates." Leo smiled and replied, "Sorry, you'll have to come back in a few days." "Wait, how many?" 10 seconds later, a beaming Leo, owner of the Blockhead workshop, was enthusiastically ushering his new customers inside. Come in, come in. We've got plenty of figurines and paint. You've done this before, right? Then don't be shy. Just grab what you need and get started. There's an empty table over there. Hey, would you like some water? I'll get you some." When you're running a business, the customer is always right, especially when that customer is planning to buy and paint 20 or 30 Blockhead figurines in one go. As the big boss of Mako Entertainment, Leo Hammer Wallace was a man of principles. But principles had to be flexible. Without a second thought, he welcomed the major clients inside. His own group of friends only needed one of the long tables to study. The other one was empty, so he let the new customers use it. The customers were a group of sophomore guys from the engineering department. Being from engineering, their gender ratio was basically 9-to-1. As Leo led them into the shop, they looked around curiously and immediately noticed the large group of people sitting at the other table. Among them were several girls. Holy crap, they're gorgeous. The engineering students' eyes went wide. Molly, Jade, Quinn, Lily, Yvonne. Several of them were department beauties or even campus queens. They had heard that the rotating managers at the Blockhead workshop were all stunning, but they had never expected to see almost all of them in one place. Before they could even recover from their shock, they heard footsteps approaching. They looked up, and their hearts nearly stopped. Claire Sterling, the campus queen. Claire had seen her boyfriend bring a few customers into the shop and had come over to see what was going on. After listening to his righteous explanation about the customer is always right, she first rolled her eyes at him, half amused and half exasperated. "You mean you're just greedy? Don't give me that customer is always right nonsense." But when she heard that the engineering students were preparing gifts for their class Christmas party, a spark of inspiration lit up in her eyes. Holiday event gifts. That's a good idea. Claire pulled her boyfriend aside and, after organizing her thoughts, shared some of the ideas that had just come to her. Leo listened and gave her a thumbs up. "That's my girl. We were thinking the exact same thing." Claire pondered for a moment. To tie in with the Christmas Eve event, the best approach would be to incorporate design elements into the blockheads themselves. We could release a limited edition Christmas-themed series. Or even better, have them holding a festive apple. She frowned. But Christmas Eve is only a few days away. If we design them now, get them prototyped, and have them shipped from Northwood, there's not enough time. Her voice was tinged with regret. Being the future successor of Sterling Holdings was one thing, but she was far more invested in her title as the boss's wife of Mako Entertainment. She dreamed of the day Mako would grow big enough to acquire Sterling Holdings. So, missing an opportunity like this due to a small oversight was naturally disappointing. But to her surprise, Leo just smiled. "Don't worry, there's plenty of time." Meeting her confused gaze, he pulled out his phone, opened a picture, and showed it to her. Prototypes from the factory. 2 Christmas-themed designs. 2 designs holding apples. And 1 couple version and 1 family version. Now, it was Claire's turn to be stunned. She snatched the phone from him, examined the pictures closely, and then looked up at him in disbelief. "When did you do this?" Leo's expression was one of pure righteousness. "About a month ago, I had Isabella work some overtime. As soon as the designs were done, I sent them to my dad's factory for samples. They started mass production last week. Shipped out the day before yesterday. They should be arriving tomorrow or the day after." The great Leo Hammer would never miss an opportunity to make money. Everything was under control. Claire shot her boyfriend a mock reproachful look. "You really are greedy." Leo didn't blush. "Well, I do my best. So, do you like this kind of greedy?" Claire wrapped her arms around his neck, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Then she smiled radiantly. "I love it to death." The couple's daily flirtatious banter was a regular occurrence. They had forgotten about the engineering students standing nearby, who were now frozen like statues. They had heard tales of the lethal and savage couple's infamous PDA, but witnessing it firsthand, the shock and emotional damage, was far more terrifying than they could have imagined. Jade brought over a few cups of hot tea and kindly distributed them to the engineering students, offering a word of advice. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it. If you're really upset, you can always go screw Northwood High. By the way, we just released an exclusive anti-Northwood line of figurines. Would you like to buy a few?" Of the 7 or 8 rotating managers at the Blockhead Workshop, Jade's sales performance had always been far and away the best. The plans for the Christmas Eve event were already in place. Leo shared the details with the rest of the group, sparking a wave of excitement. When Christmas Eve and Christmas Day arrived, they would be in for another big event. They couldn't wait. For the next few days, however, they still focused their energy on studying. As top students at Berkeley, they couldn't forget their primary duty. This was something that President Emeritus Alastair Finch had repeatedly drilled into Leo. "You can hold your events, but if you neglect your studies, don't expect this old man to show you any mercy." Leo had nodded. Then, placing a piece on the board, he'd said, "Oh, I win." "Alastair Finch, I've only played 3 pieces. How have you already won? You little rascal, why have you played 5 pieces? You're asking for it." For the next few days, the Blockhead Workshop officially suspended its business operations and transformed into a study hall for the group. They all sat neatly at the long table, facing each other, engrossed in their work. The official couples like Leo and Claire and Molly and Leon naturally sat together openly. And the others like Quinn and Marco and Lily and Clark also happened to sit together, as if by coincidence, acting completely normal so as not to arouse suspicion. They discussed their studies with serious focus. Until one afternoon, as everyone at the table seemed to be concentrating on their work, Dylan's pen slipped and fell under the table. He instinctively bent down to look for it. He quickly found the pen. He was pleased. But then his gaze inadvertently swept across the scene under the table. His eyes widened in shock. Many years later, whenever he saw a long wooden table, Dylan would still remember with a pang of regret that distant afternoon when he studied with a group of devious, conniving friends. As he picked up the pen, his gaze first swept idly across the far end of the table. He saw 2 figures sitting close together. He easily recognized them as the lethal and savage couple. Under the table, one of them nudged his girlfriend's leg with his knee. She gently nudged back, as if reminding him to behave and focus on studying. He quieted down for a moment, but soon he was sneakily kicking her foot. The next second, she unceremoniously stomped on his shoe. Hiss! He snatched his foot back with lightning speed, accompanied by the familiar sound of a certain pretty boy sucking in a sharp breath from above the table. Classic lethal and savage couple antics. Dylan was used to it. This was nothing. He had seen far more outrageous and shameless displays before. Probably around chapter 167 of this book. This was small potatoes. Dylan wasn't fazed. Just as he was about to straighten up, his eyes happened to drift to another part of the table. Again, by sheer coincidence, he saw what appeared to be another couple sitting together. Each had one hand on the table, holding a pen, seemingly focused on writing. But their other hands were both under the table, resting on the long bench. The girl's slender fingers seemed to casually brush against the back of the boy's hand. The boy, however, seemed flustered and nervous, pulling his hand back as if shocked. The girl's movements were gentle, but grew bolder. She reached out and gently took his hand. Then, she playfully traced his palm with her pinky finger before slowly intertwining their fingers, hand in hand. Dylan's eyes widened. Damn, this girl is smooth. Wait, was that Molly and Leon? The personalities seemed to fit, but Leon's hands were rougher and darker, and Molly's weren't the long, slender, elegant type. Wait, hold on. A flash of insight struck him. Dylan the detective had a sudden realization. The people sitting in that spot, aren't they? Whoosh. Dylan's head shot up from under the table. His eyes wide, he first looked over at Molly and Leon. Just as he thought, the novel-loving girl and the date cake guy had all four hands on the table, happily munching on date cake snacks. That checked out. So, what he had just seen was... Dylan slowly turned his head, his gaze landing on the spot he had just observed under the table. There sat Lily Lou and Clark Sterling. At that moment, each had only one hand on the table, holding a pen, appearing to be engrossed in their studies. But to the sharp eyes of Detective Dylan, there were countless subtle details that others might miss. For instance, though Lily seemed to be focused on her work, the corners of her mouth were curved into a faint, knowing smile. Her other hand rested nonchalantly on the bench under the table, her arm gently brushing against the boy next to her. And as for Clark, though he appeared calm, the pupils of his eyes were subtly trembling. When Lily leaned over to innocently ask a question, he managed to answer calmly, but his voice was noticeably tight. Dylan, a major discovery, a monumental discovery. Detective Dylan, Dylan for short, was experiencing a seismic shock. He had uncovered a huge secret. Though everyone had suspected there was something going on between them, he never imagined they had already reached this stage. They were up to no good right under everyone's noses. After the initial shock, a wave of excitement washed over him. It was a secret that only he knew, which made it all the more thrilling and fun. Unable to contain his curiosity, he stealthily bent down to peek under the table again. This time, he once again saw Lily and Clark's intimate little gestures. Dylan couldn't help but grin like a proud parent. Well, well, well. But to be fair, everyone had already expected these two to get together. It was only a matter of time. Now that it had happened secretly, they still looked just as perfect for each other. Huh? Who were those other two secretly trying to hold hands? Detective Dylan's confused gaze focused once more. The moment he saw who it was, he froze. Dylan, a million exclamation points floated above his head. Startled, Dylan shot up from under the table, his head slamming into the underside of the tabletop. The entire table shook, startling everyone who was studying. Whoa, what was that? An earthquake? Was that Dylan? Dylan, are you okay? Dylan stood up, clutching his head, completely oblivious to the pain. His face was a mask of disbelief as he stared wide-eyed at Quinn and Marco on the other side of the table, his mouth agape. He could only manage a series of stuttering noises. Now everyone was even more shocked. What's going on? Holy crap, Dylan can almost talk. It was a well-known fact among the group. When Dylan spoke, something big was happening. At that moment, everyone was baffled. Dylan's mouth was open, but he couldn't form a complete sentence, his face turning red with effort. But Marco, with his keen intuition, sensed from his Gotham brother's reaction that something was wrong. His expression changed. He quickly dragged Dylan away. Haha, you guys keep studying. I'll handle this. I'll find out what's going on. With great effort, Marco finally managed to drag Dylan to a corner by the back door of the workshop. The first thing he did was put a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. Sure. Then he whispered, "You found out?" Dylan was still reeling from the massive shock, sucking in breaths of air, barely able to speak. You and Quinn. When? Marco laughed nervously. Well, that's hard to say. Probably around the time of the Founders Ball. Dylan's voice shot up several octaves, nearly loud enough for everyone inside to hear. The Founders Ball? In the afternoon sun, by the back door of the Blockhead workshop, a flock of sparrows took flight with a flutter of wings. Inside, the group at the long table heard the commotion and looked up, puzzled. What are they doing back there? Why are they so worked up? Jade pushed her black-rimmed glasses up her nose and offered a simple explanation. They're the Gotham brothers. This is just how they are. The others nodded in understanding. Perfectly reasonable. Meanwhile, at the back door, Marco nearly had a heart attack at Dylan's sudden outburst. He lunged forward and clamped a hand over his best friend's mouth. You keep it down. Don't let anyone hear. Nobody else knows yet. With his mouth covered, Dylan finally managed to calm down. He pried Marco's hand away, his voice still filled with disbelief. You and Quinn. Marco nodded, whispering, "You have to keep this a secret from me, okay? For the sake of our friendship." The first part of the sentence didn't register, but the second part made Dylan suddenly annoyed. "Some friend you are. Keeping this from me for so long. And we were supposed to be in this together, but you went and hooked up with Quinn behind my back." They had all sworn to build Gotham together. This was blatant betrayal. Betrayal in Gotham. Dylan glared at Marco and announced furiously, "As of today, you are officially kicked out of Gotham." Marco blinked, then scratched his head. "Oh, okay, that works. A double win, really?" That reaction nearly made Dylan explode with anger again. He took a moment to compose himself and looked at his friend, feeling a little happy for him despite himself. Then another thought occurred to him. "You and Quinn, that's a good thing, right? Why are you hiding it from everyone?" Marco looked embarrassed. "Well, we're not exactly official yet. It's like we both know there's something there, but we haven't actually talked about it. I still don't even know how to ask her out. I just feel insecure. So I was planning to wait until it was official before telling you guys." Dylan nodded in understanding, then his curiosity got the better of him. "So, how far have you two gotten?" Marco's spirits lifted slightly. "We've been eating together and going for walks a lot lately. And we've held hands." Dylan stared at him, dumbfounded. Then his expression turned to one of utter contempt. "You've been at it for 2 months, and you've only held hands? You're pathetic." Marco shot him a sideways glance. Says the guy who can't even string a sentence together in front of a girl. Dylan. Damn it. Some friend. Always hitting where it hurts. He was out. He had to be out. Gotham had no place for a traitor like him. But despite his anger, looking at his friend, Dylan still felt a sense of sentimental pride. He clapped him on the shoulder and said earnestly, "You've got this. Quinn is a great woman, and you're not so bad yourself. You deserve her. I'll be waiting for the good news." Marco was taken aback. He met his roommate's sincere gaze and was genuinely touched. He stepped forward and gave his Gotham brother a tight hug. "Thanks, man." Dylan hugged him back. "Go get her." While the two brothers were sharing a heartfelt moment at the back door, the group inside was getting restless. What's taking them so long? What are they doing? Yvonne was about to get up. Maybe I should go check. Just then, Jade, who had already peeked out the back door, returned nonchalantly. She gently pressed Yvonne back in her seat. "They're having a private moment. You shouldn't be a third wheel." "Yvonne? Question mark. Quinn." Confused Yvonne. JPG. Shot Quinn. JPG. A few days flew by. Suddenly, it was December 23 RD. Christmas Eve was just around the corner. Just before the holiday, Mako Entertainment made an official announcement on the Battle Through the Heavens browser game website. The official line of character blockhead figurines was now available for purchase. The regular series included all the main characters, such as Xiao Yin, Xiao Suner, Nalan Yinran, Yao Lao, Medusa, and the Little Fairy Doctor. Every design had been personally approved by the original author, Potato, ensuring that they were true to the characters while perfectly capturing the unique, adorable, and charming style of the blockhead figurines. The moment the promotional posters were released, they created a frenzy among the novel and games fanbases. The pre-order page was nearly crashed by the flood of orders. In just 24 hours, over 30,000 people had placed pre-orders for a total of 98,000 figurines. And that was just from the hype of the Battle Through the Heavens IP alone. The plan for the blind box hidden figures was still in the design and preparation phase. Leo was very confident about this. As a reincarnator, he knew all too well how incredibly effective blind boxes would be at draining consumers' wallets a decade later. The unsuspecting natives of 2008 had never seen such a sophisticated marketing scheme. They would be lining up to hand over their money. Of course, there was one small detail that was not under Leo's control. The design of the hidden figures had been personally taken over by Potato, who was now working directly with Mako Entertainment's art department head, Isabella Zhao. When Leo asked Potato about it, he was evasive and mysterious, only saying that Leo would find out when the product was released. And when Leo asked Isabella, she was just as tight-lipped. "Oh, don't worry about it, boss. Potato and I are working on it. It'll be great. Is there anything strange about it?" "Nope, everything's totally normal." Isabella was a terrible liar. If she had any secrets, she wouldn't be able to hide them. Leo didn't detect anything amiss, so he hung up, reassured. He had no idea that as soon as he hung up, Isabella was in an AIM chat with Potato. "Potato, you didn't tell your boss anything, did you?" Isabella typed back happily. "Nope. Don't worry, it's just a hidden figure. My boss asked if there was anything strange about it. And what's so strange about a hidden figure? One is named Sue Ran, and the other is Lin Qingyan. It's not like we're using my boss's and the boss's wife's names, or Kevin and Tess's. No problem at all. Leo Hammer Wallace had calculated 1,000 things, but he never could have calculated that someone could read about the new side characters Su Ran and Lin Qingyan in Battle Through the Heavens and still not recognize those names. This time, he had well and truly dug his own grave. But the blind box project hadn't launched yet. It was still in the works, being secretly prepared by Isabella and Potato. The time for the big reveal had not yet come. Leo's attention had already shifted to another matter. While the Battle Through the Heavens figurines were selling like hotcakes, the official website had also launched links for other styles of figurines, themed for the upcoming Christmas season. According to the plan, there were a total of 6 Christmas-themed blockheads, for individual designs, male and female, with and without apples, plus a couple set and a family set. They were all launched at the same time. Riding the wave of the Battle Through the Heavens sales, they also attracted the attention of many online shoppers. A quick look was all it took. Hey, these are pretty cute too. Since they were already buying the Beat TH merch, throwing in 1 or 2 Christmas figurines to get into holiday spirit was an easy decision. 10,000 of the family-themed sets were produced. 8,000 of them were immediately snapped up by Chloe Chu for her Mia's maternity stores. On the phone, Chloe was her usual bold self. 8,000 sets. I don't even need until Christmas. I'll have them all sold out before Christmas Eve. Leo chuckled and showered her with praise. On the other end of the line, little Mia snatched the phone from her mother, her voice full of childish bravado. Big brother, I'm helping Mommy sell your figurines too. As a thank you, are you going to give me a Christmas present? A Christmas present? Leo thought for a moment. How about I go to the bookstore and see if they have a Christmas special edition of the AP workbooks? Mia? Question mark. Oh, big brother, what are you saying? The signal is bad. I can't hear you. I'm going to hang up now, haha. Mommy, which button hangs up? Ugh, stupid phone, hang up already. Then came a dial tone. Leo smugly put his phone away, feeling like a victorious general. Silly kid. All talk and no game. She wouldn't be happy even if I did get her a real present. With Chloe's maternity chain gearing up for a big push, the Blockhead Workshop couldn't afford to be idle either. Of the 6 Christmas-themed designs, most of the family sets had been taken by Chloe. The remaining few, along with a large portion of the other designs, were shipped directly to the workshop. The storeroom was packed to the gills, and the overflow was stacked up in the main lobby, forming a small mountain of boxes. When Leo called the gang from room 205 and room 520 to assemble, they were all stunned by the sheer volume of inventory. Whoa, that's a lot. Are we sure we can sell all of this? Leo just nodded calmly. We can. It's not a problem. As soon as the figurines arrived, a portion of them had already been claimed by Mr. Qian. He had taken 2,000 sets without batting an eye, slapping his chest as he left and declaring it was a piece of cake. I'll put 100 or so in each of my flower shops, barber shops, clothing stores, snack joints, and land centers. Customers are bound to buy a few, or we can just give them away as holiday promotions. If you have any more, just give them to me. I'll call up my cousins 11, 12, 13, and 14, and my uncles 7 and 8, and my great-grandfather 9, and get them to take some too. The Gilded Phoenix family had once again revealed a fraction of its true power. Terrifying. Another 2,000 sets were assigned to Isabella and Yvonne. Leo tasked his 2 key Mako Entertainment generals with leading the rest of the company's members to promote and sell them on the new campus. A Berkeley freshman beauty and a Berkeley Arts Department beauty. As long as they kept their IQ and EQ hidden, their combined charisma would undoubtedly create another buying frenzy on the new campus. At first, Isabella was reluctant to take on this extra, public-facing work. Ugh, I've been working so hard on the blind box designs lately. Besides, I'm Isabella Zhao, the arts department goddess. I have a reputation to maintain. I can't just go out and be a salesperson on the street. Leo, you get a 3% sales commission. If you sell out within 2 days, it's 5%. Isabella was instantly fired up. Done. Absolutely done. Boss, to be honest, I've loved being a street vendor since I was a kid. What's that about being a goddess? Art has to be down to earth, you know? Ha ha ha. Her motivation was maxed out. Of course, even after distributing 4,000 sets, the mountain of boxes in the workshop was still enormous. A quick count showed there were still 5,000 sets left. Leo clapped his hands. The rest is up to you guys. Let's try to sell them all tomorrow on Christmas Eve, so we can all relax and enjoy Christmas the day after. Marco sucked in a breath. 5,000 sets. In one day? Leo, are you insane? Leo just smiled and waved his hand. Making money isn't the point. The point is to use this opportunity to make the Blockhead brand a household name. 5,000 sets was a daunting task, but they had plenty of help. The 2 dorms, plus Lily and Clark, and all the Northwood High juniors who worked at the shop. They just needed to plan it out, assign everyone a territory, and get to work. The group gathered around as Leo showed them the sales plan he had drawn up, with territories marked out. They were all ready to claim their assignments. Molly suddenly let out a little cry of confusion. Hey, isn't there one extra territory you marked out? Leo just grinned. Nope, it's just right. As if on cue, the workshop door opened. Kevin and Tessa, who had arrived from Portland as promised, walked in, dragging their suitcases. Leo, hey, everyone's here. You didn't have to throw us such a big welcoming party, huh? You're making us blush. Leo greeted them with a wide smile. You're here. It must have been a long trip. We don't have much to offer in the way of hospitality, but come on in. I've got a challenging new job for you two. Kevin and Tessa? ? With everyone gathered at the Blockhead workshop, Leo and Claire spent the evening assigning tasks for the big Christmas Eve sale. Kevin and Tessa, being the couple's oldest and closest friends, were naturally the easiest to put to work. There was no need for formalities. They had just arrived from Portland, tired from their journey and full of excitement, suitcases still in hand. Before they could even sit down for a warm meal, they were assigned their sales territory for the next day. At first, they were a bit bewildered, but once they understood the situation, they readily agreed. No problem. Leave it to us. They had come to East Bay to celebrate the holidays with everyone. Participating in a promotional event like this sounded like fun. Besides, Tessa shot a sideways glance at a certain humanities department beauty on the other side of the table. She was determined to claim the title of Claire's #1 maid of honor. She had to perform well in front of Claire. She couldn't let some newcomer like Lily Lou steal her thunder. Wait a minute. The guy next to Lily was Claire's cousin, Clark Sterling? The two of them seemed different from how they were on the trip to the historic town. Tessa frowned. She didn't even need to witness any under-the-table secrets like Dylan had. Her sharp eyes and intuition were enough to lead her to a swift conclusion. They're together. Having effortlessly solved the mystery, Tessa's expression changed. This is bad. If those two are together, that gives Lily a direct family connection to Claire through Clark. Her competitiveness just shot way up. Threat level increased. She immediately turned to her boyfriend and began giving him a series of stern instructions. Bring your A game tomorrow. We have to perform well. We have to beat Lily and Clark. At the same moment, Lily's gaze swept over Tessa and Kevin. A small smile played on her lips. She leaned closer to Clark and whispered, her smile never fading. We have to give it our all tomorrow. We have to be #1. We have to beat Tessa and Kevin. Clark looked confused. Beat them? Why? Kevin was equally clueless. Honey, what are you talking about? While the two men were completely lost, the two women, rivals for the title of Claire's future maid of honor, locked eyes. Their faces were all smiles, but their gazes were sharp. Lily, long time no see. You too, Tessa. Kevin and I are going for the top sales spot tomorrow. What a coincidence. Clark and I are a team, and we're aiming for the top spot too. They both paused, and then their eyes flashed with competitive fire. So, it's a competition? You bet it is. Sensing the tension, Claire quickly stepped in, smiling as she pulled her two best friends aside to calm them down. The rest of the group was enjoying the show, but since they weren't competing for any best man or maid of honor titles, they turned to Leo with mischievous grins. Leo, if we get the top sales spot tomorrow, there has to be a prize, right? Yeah, we're working for the great boss Lynn. You have to be generous. Leo chuckled. Don't worry, there will be prizes. Let me think about it. That wasn't good enough for the crowd, who immediately started jeering at him for being a stingy capitalist. Leo thought for a moment. I haven't decided on the prize for first place. But for last place, I can offer a family-sized gift basket of my girl's handmade baked goods as a consolation prize. A dead silence fell over the room. Everyone froze. A second later, they all snapped back to reality, wiping sweat from their brows and pounding their chests as they swore to the heavens. Don't worry, Boss Lynn. We promise to do our best. We won't let anyone down. We'd rather die than get the consolation prize. December 24th. Christmas Eve. It was still a day before Christmas, but the holiday spirit had already enveloped the entire city of East Bay. The commercial street outside the university was adorned with festive lights and decorations. Christmas trees were set up, strung with colorful lights and all sorts of small gift boxes. Bright red apples, a symbol of peace, looked particularly festive and enticing. The campus itself was also buzzing with excitement. It was a Friday, but in anticipation of the student holiday needs, and as a way to ease the tension of the upcoming finals, the university administration had announced that classes would be dismissed in the afternoon. The announcement was met with a chorus of cheers that echoed across the campus. Starting from noon, various student clubs and organizations began putting up posters for their events, and a holiday market was set up. From the classroom buildings to the dorms, in front of the dining halls, and by the overlook, small stalls had popped up everywhere. Some sold handmade crafts. Others sold snacks. A few enterprising students from the business school had even bought a large quantity of apples from the wholesale market and were selling them at a premium. The sounds of vendors hawking their wares filled the air, adding to the festive atmosphere. And amidst all this, the students of Berkeley discovered that this year's Christmas market had a new main attraction. Christmas blockheads. The new Christmas-themed figurines from the Blockhead Workshop. 1 for 20, 3 for 50. Come all. Don't miss out. Blockhead figurines from the workshop that brings you lethal and savage cuteness. When that cry rang out across the campus, many students instinctively flinched. What was that? Did they just hear the words, lethal and savage? As in, the lethal and savage couple? After a year and a half of being force-fed their PDA, they were practically traumatized. Their first instinct was to run. But then they came to their senses. They looked at the stall, and, their curiosity piqued, cautiously approached. What are you selling? Molly, who was in charge of the area in front of the Golden Wisteria dining hall, looked up with a bright, enthusiastic smile. Blockhead figurines, from the workshop on the commercial street. These are the special Christmas editions. You can buy them individually or as a couple set. Come take a look. We're having a holiday sale. 1 for 20, 3 for 50. It's a great deal. Beside her, Leon enthusiastically offered a tray of date cake snacks. And you get a free date cake with every purchase. A sweet treat for the sweet holiday season. The charming pairing of the date cake guy and the novel girl, combined with the irresistible offer of free date cakes, successfully persuaded a large number of students to open their wallets. They had drawn first blood, but it wasn't just Leon and Molly who were putting in the effort. The other teams were also hard at work. Lily and Tessa, each with a point to prove, were locked in a fierce competition. While they actively promoted the figurines at their respective stalls, they also sent Clark and Kevin out to canvass the streets, and then the dining halls, and even the dorms, to drum up business. The two top contenders for Maid of Honor were going at it hammer and tongs, and though the outcome was still uncertain, their poor boyfriends were being worked to the bone. Marco and Quinn's team, on the other hand, was having a much easier time. As two of the most popular and well-connected people on campus, the former social butterflies knew everyone. Finding customers was a breeze. Their business was booming. Dylan and Jade were also paired up. The brilliant Jade had come up with a unique strategy. She had Dylan, with his special talent, stand at a busy intersection holding a Christmas blockhead. When curious freshmen came over to ask about it and saw him stammering, unable to speak, Jade would float over and explain with a sigh worthy of an Oscar-winning actress, "He can't speak." Her performance moved the kind-hearted freshmen to generously open their wallets and lend a helping hand. Even more effective were the Northwood High alumni who worked at the workshop. They took a completely different approach. They proudly displayed a sign that read "Official Mascot of the Anti-Northwood Alliance" and passionately pitched to the passing Berkeley students. Limited edition Anti-Northwood Christmas figurines. Buy them with the regular edition for a discount. Every purchase is a contribution to the cause. You say you want to screw Northwood High? Are you just going to say it? Or are you going to do something about it? Their words resonated deeply with the Berkeley students who had suffered under the tyranny of the Northwood customs. Fired up, they immediately reached for their wallets. Who says I'm just going to say it? I'll buy 1. I'll buy 4. I want to screw Northwood High 4 times. Their sales were also through the roof. And once again, on this festive Christmas Eve, the campus echoed with the familiar chant of "To hell with Northwood High." Somewhere on campus, Leo sneezed. He rubbed his nose, puzzled. I feel like someone's cursing me. Beside him, Claire couldn't help but laugh. You have so many enemies. Isn't it normal for you to be cursed? After teasing her boyfriend, she looked at the 2 large boxes of Christmas blockheads on their pushcart and asked curiously, "You've assigned everyone else a territory. Where are we going to sell ours?" Leo waved his hand with a righteous air. "Let them handle the student business. We're going to go get business from the professors and advisors." While the other promotional teams were working hard setting up stalls along the campus roads to attract student customers, the lethal couple took things a step further. Their sales plan targeted the university's faculty advisors directly. Compared to the bright-eyed, gullible college students, the faculty advisors had money, and they cared about appearances. In the eyes of the lethal couple, they were lambs ripe for the fleecing. The fleecing began with the School of Humanities. They arrived at the department's small white building. With afternoon classes canceled for the holiday, the advisors were in their offices, relaxing or packing up their materials to go home. They were immediately greeted by the smiling, cheerful faces of the lethal couple. "Professor Zhou, Merry Christmas Eve. We made some Christmas figurines for you. Here, take 2. "Oh no, we couldn't possibly let you pay. They're a gift." "Really, it's fine. You're too kind." "Well, if you insist." "Claire, grab 2 more for Professor Zhou, so she has a set of 4. She could put some at home and some in her office." Before the professor could even process what was happening, her hands were filled with 4 adorable, stout, Christmas-themed blockhead figures. Leo beamed, his face a perfect picture of sunshine. "That'll be $80. Do you need change, Professor?" The lethal couple pressed on, relentless. They went door to door, sweeping through every office in the humanities building. Sometimes, Leo's silver tongue did the work. Other times, Claire would step forward, and she wouldn't even need to say a word. She'd just flash a gentle smile, place a blockhead figure in a professor's hand, and the younger faculty members, dazed and confused, found themselves buying 3, 5, even more figures, all in the name of supporting their students' entrepreneurial project. Eventually, their own advisors, the familiar faces of Alex and Ms. Sullivan, arrived, having heard the commotion. Seeing Leo and Claire hawking their wares at their doorstep, the 2 advisors didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Well, we were just sitting in our office when we heard the lethal couple was on the warpath, cornering people and tricking them into buying these things. Aren't you 2 a little bold? You're trying to sell to the faculty now." Leo's expression was one of righteous indignation. "Of course we are. If we only sold to students and not to the professors and advisors, wouldn't that mean we weren't thinking of you? We Berkeley students can't be accused of disrespecting our esteemed teachers." Alex and Ms. Sullivan looked at each other. Question mark. It sounded reasonable, but something felt distinctly off. Before the 2 advisors could put their finger on it, Claire was already smiling and handing them a pair of couple blockheads. "Professor, a special couple set, just for you 2. Leo seized the opportunity, pulling 2 more figures from their cart. "And a family set. For good luck." The appearance of the family set nearly made Alex and Ms. Sullivan blush crimson. They stammered, flustered. What are you talking about? Stop messing around. We have no such plans." In the end, they bought both the family set and the couple set. The advisor couple talked a tough game, but their actions were much more honest. Having successfully conquered the humanities building, the lethal couple didn't waste a moment, charging toward their next target. For today's holiday promotion, the boss and lady boss of Mako Entertainment were firing on all cylinders. In their wake, faculty advisors turned pale at their approach. If they encountered a dog on the road, the 2 of them would have probably pitched it so hard the poor thing would have coughed up a couple of bones. The commotion eventually reached the university president's office. That afternoon, Berkeley's current president, Dr. Chen Wangdao, was enjoying tea and a casual chat with several deans and department heads. Hearing the lively noise outside, he was slightly surprised. He asked what was happening and was told that 2 students, a Leo Wallace and a Claire Sterling, were promoting their startup product, a line of toy figurines. President Chen couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, it's them." The other deans and department heads found the names vaguely familiar, but were still confused. Who are they? Bringing their business to the admin building. They got some nerve. President Chen explained with a smile. "One is Dr. Finch's new prized mentee. The other is Charles Sterling's daughter from Sterling Holdings." At that, the assembled Berkeley leadership couldn't help but be moved. Then one of the deans slapped his forehead in realization. "I remember now. Don't those 2 have a nickname? It's the lethal couple, right?" Hearing their names and President Chen's explanation hadn't fully clicked, but when the dean mentioned the nickname, it dawned on all of them. They're the lethal couple. Well, I'll be damned. I've heard of them. The young couple's reputation had indeed spread across the entire campus. The university leaders present were all tolerant people, and since it was Christmas, they were happy to see students engaging in this kind of activity. It was entrepreneurship, after all. It should be encouraged. It wasn't a big deal. Besides, it wasn't interrupting their tea time. No matter how bold those 2 kids were, they wouldn't dare try to bring their business into the president's office. Knock, knock. The office door, which was slightly ajar, was tapped twice. A handsome head peeked in, looked around, and his eyes lit up with an enthusiastic smile. "Oh, the president and all the deans are here." He then turned and called out jubilantly to someone outside. "Claire, come quick. We can get them all in one go." The assembled Berkeley leadership, question mark. In the end, with expressions caught between amusement and exasperation, they all took out their wallets and purchased several Mako blockheads, demonstrating the university leadership's support for student entrepreneurship. Dr. Chun looked at Claire, sighing in admiration. Like father, like daughter. I can certainly see Mr. Sterling's business acumen in his daughter. But when he turned to look at Leo, his attitude was not quite so favorable. He pointed a finger at him, half annoyed, half amused. "You, making such a huge scene. I'd like to see how you explain this to Dr. Finch." Claire, standing beside them, froze slightly at the mention of the name. "Dr. Finch?" Leo, however, confidently puffed out his chest. "Don't you worry. I've still got a bunch of stock left. I'm heading over to give some to the old man right now." Dr. Chun? Question mark. He'd underestimated him. The thickness of this kid's skin was truly unparalleled. On the way to the faculty housing, pulling their small cart, Claire turned to her boyfriend. "Dr. Finch, President Emeritus of Berkeley, member of the National Academy of Engineering. Alastair Finch." Leo, no longer hiding it from her, nodded freely. "Yep, that's him." Even Claire couldn't help but draw in a sharp breath, slightly shaken by the confirmation. That man's status was truly intimidatingly high. Instantly, several things that hadn't made sense before clicked into place. Back when that second-generation rich kid, Carter Vance, had tried to hit on her, only to be beaten up several times by the lethal couple's combined assault, the incident had caused a huge stir on campus. But in the end, it was suppressed by an invisible hand, vanishing without a trace. Such a feat, handled with such effortless grace. Indeed, only a figure like the lifetime President Emeritus of Berkeley could accomplish that so easily. Although she now understood the reason, Claire still had a new question. A figure like Dr. Alastair Finch was practically transcendent, above worldly affairs. Why would he bother intervening in such a trivial matter? To his girlfriend's question, Leo's answer was perfectly self-assured. "It must be my overwhelming charm. Or maybe the old man really does have a granddaughter and wants me as his grandson-in-law." Ouch. Okay. I'm sorry, my love. Have mercy." Claire slowly retracted her punishing hand. Seeing her boyfriend rubbing his ear and wincing, she couldn't help but let a small smile grace her lips. Some things might seem unbelievable for others, but when it came to the big dummy in front of her, everything somehow felt perfectly reasonable. So what if he was admired and valued by a great figure like the President Emeritus of Berkeley and a member of the National Academy of Engineering? The man she, Claire Sterling, loved was naturally the best and most outstanding man in the entire world. With that thought, she felt a sense of relief and understanding. The young couple continued on, holding hands, walking side by side toward the faculty housing. "So, a while back, when you said you were playing chess with someone on campus, it was with Dr. Finch?" "Yeah, and let me tell you, that old guy looks all wise and saintly, but he's a sly one. He cheats at 5 in a row, hiding pieces." As they were talking, they arrived at the small garden in front of the faculty apartment building. Dr. Finch, who was just walking out of the gazebo, heard every word. His beard bristled, and his eyes widened. "Who hides pieces? You brat. How dare you speak ill of me in front of your girlfriend? You've got a death wish, don't you?" Claire stepped forward with a graceful smile and greeted the old president. "Dr. Finch." Seeing Claire, Alastair Finch's eyes lit up. He looked her up and down before clicking his tongue in praise. "You must be Charles Sterling's girl, right? Not bad at all. You truly deserve the title of Berkeley's It Girl." This boy Leo really hit the jackpot. During their exchange, Leo had already deftly wheeled the cart over. "Merry Christmas, sir. We didn't have a proper gift for the holiday, so please accept these figurines as a small token of our appreciation. You can give them to your family or share them with the other faculty members as holiday gifts." Seeing Leo's warm and considerate gesture, Alastair Finch felt a warmth in his heart. He nodded in satisfaction, stroking his beard. "Since it's a token from you, young man, I will accept it." Leo waved his hand magnanimously. Of course. So that's 60 pieces left in this half box. With a discount, that's $1,050. I'll round it down for you to an even 1,000. Will that be cash or card?" Alastair Finch, question mark. Claire smiled and turned to go into the building to boil some water for tea. In the small garden, the old man and the young man reenacted their familiar chase and flee routine. A few moments later, panting, they were sitting back in a gazebo, calm and composed once more, playing a game of chess and chatting. Kid, you still haven't told the Sterling girl about Happy Nest. Nope. Please help me keep it a secret for now. Low profile, you know. Dr. Finch shot Leo a sidelong glance, full of disdain. Now you want to be low profile? I saw you being pretty high profile with your big figurine promotion today. I heard you even took your business all the way to Chun Wangdao's office. Let me tell you, kid, you could do business, but don't you dare use my name to pull any shady stuff on campus. If you cross the line, don't blame an old man for disowning you. The words were half joking, half serious, but they carried a hint of a warning. Leo just smiled. Don't you worry. The money I'm making from this little venture isn't even on my radar. Hearing that, Dr. Finch was about to scoff. Not on your radar, and yet you're selling them with such enthusiasm. But in the next moment, he heard Leo, sitting across from him, add lightly, today's income from the campus figurine promotion. 20% of the profits will be used for staff salaries and bonuses. The other 80% will be donated to the East Bay City Orphanage as a charitable contribution in the name of the Berkeley student body. Alastair Finch was suddenly stunned. He looked up at the young man, who continued speaking calmly. Furthermore, for every Mako Entertainment blockhead figure sold from now on, 30% of the profits will be donated to charity. It would be best if I could trouble you to step in. See if you can work with Berkeley to make it official. Mako Entertainment and the university could jointly establish a charitable foundation. Part of it would go to supporting underprivileged students here. The rest would be for joint charitable donations. From this day forward, this will be standard practice. After saying his piece, Leo paused and smiled at Dr. Finch. You said it yourself. Business isn't just about chasing profits. It's about doing something to benefit the people and contribute to society. I remembered. Alastair Finch took a deep breath, the frown lines on his forehead completely smoothing out. Good. Leave the charitable foundation to me. As this university's lifetime president emeritus, I can still get people to give me some face. His words were firm and resolute. Not far away, Claire returned, carrying hot water, walking gracefully toward the gazebo. Dr. Finch glanced at the girl's approaching figure, then turned back to Leo and sighed with heartfelt emotion. To have a son-in-law like you. The Sterling family must have done something truly good in a past life to deserve this fortune. Leo smiled, his gaze also turning to his girlfriend as she approached. His eyes were soft and warm. No, to have found a girlfriend like her. That's the luck of 2 lifetimes. After a full day of hard work on Christmas Eve, the Mako Blockhead promotion was a massive success. Over at the new campus, Yvonne Moreau and Isabella Zhao called with good news. All 2,000 sets of the Christmas edition blockheads had sold out, and demand was still high. Half the credit went to the adorable design of the figures themselves. The other half was genuinely due to the popularity of the 2 campus beauties. The moment they set up their stall, they caused a sensation across the new campus. On the phone, Isabella was gloating, demanding credit. Boss, don't forget my commission. Leo readily agreed. He was already thinking about how to get Happy Nest to develop some new fertilizer items for Garden Grab, ensuring that the commission he paid out would flow perfectly back into his pockets. Similarly, on the old campus, the 2,000 sets that Mr. Chien had taken were flying off the shelves in his various stores. Any Berkeley student who took a stroll down the main commercial street would be shocked to find blockhead figures lining the storefronts everywhere they looked. Had the figurines taken over the whole street? As for the remaining 5,000 sets of the Blockhead Workshop, they were completely sold out thanks to the united efforts of the whole Cruise campus promotion. Not a single one was left. In fact, it wasn't just the 5,000 Christmas edition sets. The Northwood students, led by the business-savvy Alex Zhang, had even managed to sell a significant number of pre-orders, successfully infiltrating the anti-Northwood high society. They were literally making money off their enemies. That night, everyone gathered at the Blockhead Workshop for a celebratory hot pot feast. More than 20 people crowded around a long table, eating, celebrating, and spending Christmas Eve together in a lively, boisterous atmosphere. As the drinks flowed freely, Lily Lou stood up, pulling Clark Sterling with her, and raised her glass, smiling as she announced some good news to everyone. Clark and I are dating. For a moment, there was silence. Everyone's eyes widened. Then, as the reality sank in, the room exploded with cheers and screams of joy, making the celebratory feast even more fervent. Amid the celebration, Dylan nudged Marco with his elbow and made a fist. See, you can do it too. Marco's gaze drifted to the other side of the table, to Quinn Liu, who was smiling and raising her glass to congratulate the new couple. He took a shallow breath and clenched his own fists, as if making a firm decision. December 25th. Saturday, Christmas Day. Mako Entertainment's official website and its Happy Nest account successively released two announcements. The first announced that the initial batch of Battle Through the Heavens IP merchandise and the Christmas edition figurines had completely sold out. It thanked the fans and customers for their support. The second announcement followed immediately. It declared that from now on, Mako blockheads would be dedicated to public welfare. For every figurine sold, 30% of the profits will be invested in charitable causes. Mako Entertainment is an entertainment company, but an entertainment company also has its own responsibilities and duties. This rule is now set and will not change. We welcome supervision from our users, fans, and all sectors of society. The announcement sent shockwaves across the internet. At the same time, a rumor began to spread quietly across the Berkeley campus. The story went that the massive campus promotion held by the Blockhead Workshop yesterday would donate 80% of its profits to charity in the name of the Berkeley student body. Furthermore, they were about to reach an agreement with the university to jointly create a charitable foundation to benefit underprivileged students and contribute to society. This news once again sent a powerful tremor through the campus community. Think about it. This arrangement was only announced after the promotion had ended. This was no longer a marketing gimmick. It was a demonstration of genuine, down-to-earth determination and sincerity. Thinking of the boss and lady boss of the Blockhead Workshop, countless Berkeley students felt a surge of emotion, a deep sense of admiration and respect. All I can say is, as expected of the lethal couple, we're not screwing Northwood High today. Praise Northwood. While the reputation of the lethal couple was being elevated to new heights on campus, the couple in question was completely unaware. After a busy Christmas Eve, Leo and Claire spent Christmas Day with their big group of friends, heading downtown to relax and celebrate the holiday in the most bustling part of East Bay. The Christmas crew was all there. Yvonne Moreau and Isabella Zhao came. The latter was mainly there to discuss the timing of her commission bonus with her boss, having just discovered that Garden Grab had released several new, expensive fertilizer items that morning. Anna and Wyatt Way also came. By a surprising coincidence, both of their companies had given them the day off for Christmas. They could finally join a group activity. As soon as they arrived, they heard the news about Lily Liu and Clark Sterling, and were both surprised and happy for them. Claire drifted over to her childhood friend, her lips curling into a smile as she watched her best friend/sister-in-law excitedly congratulating Lily. Lily and Clark are official. Where are you two going to be? The question nearly made the Way family air choke on his water. He coughed violently, his face turning red. Don't joke like that. Annie Cakes and I have no interest in each other like that. He swore it vehemently, as if ready to call upon the heavens as his witness. Claire just looked at him, not saying another word, only letting out a soft laugh. She walked away with her hands behind her back, leaving him with a final, whatever you say. Some things don't need to be pushed. Leave it to time. Time will bear witness to everything. Christmas night. The group had a lively dinner at a restaurant in the city center. Afterwards, they wandered through the largest and most luxurious mall in the city. When they emerged from the mall, content and satisfied, they spotted a small smoothie shop on the side of the road, its lights soft and bright. They rushed over in a cheerful swarm. The small shop was decorated with Christmas lights and ornaments. The happy tune of Jingle Bells played as the sweet aroma of smoothies filled the air, intoxicating and calming. The owners were a kind, friendly couple in their early 30s. They explained the shop's Christmas activity, inviting everyone to take Polaroids to leave behind as a commemorative wish. Everyone was intrigued and happily agreed. At the couple's direction, they eagerly posed in front of the camera, making all sorts of cute and funny faces. With each click of the shutter, a moment was captured. The photos were developed one by one. The friends excitedly took pens and wrote blessings on the back of the photos, then went to hang them on the commemorative wall. Leo and Claire took 2 photos as a couple. They each held one, looking at each other and smiling. Should we write something too? Okay. When they had both finished writing, they went to the commemorative wall and pasted their photos in the middle of their friends' pictures. Just in time, they finished their smoothies, paid the bill, and said goodbye to the enthusiastic owners. As the group stepped out of the shop, large snowflakes began to drift down from the sky, a beautiful and romantic postscript to Christmas night. In the distance, fireworks shot into the night sky. Boom! They burst open, a dazzling display that complemented the falling snow. People on the street celebrating Christmas looked up, cheering with excitement. Leo and Claire's friends cheered along with them, their moods swept up in the joyous atmosphere. The clamor was festive. The cold night air was ignited by the holiday spirit. In the bustling crowd, Leo gently pulled Claire into his arms. Claire looked up at her boyfriend. Leo, what did you write on the back of the photo? Leo smiled and shook his head. It's a secret. The girl wrinkled her nose slightly. Stingy. Then she smiled brightly. You're forgiven. What I wrote is a secret, too. In the night sky, the largest firework exploded with a roar, completely illuminating Christmas night. The cheers from the crowd on the street were like a tidal wave. Couples embraced and kissed. Leon and Molly, Kevin and Tessa. Lily Lou took the initiative and kissed Clark Sterling. Claire reached out, grabbed the collar of her boyfriend's jacket, and gently pulled him down. At the same time, she rose onto her tiptoes, her body stretching like a drawn bow, and sealed his lips with her own. A long moment later, they parted. Under the romantic fireworks, the young couple looked at each other and smiled. Merry Christmas. The festival was loud and passionate. Friends and family were by their side. This, right here, was the greatest happiness. In that moment, both Leo and Claire felt completely content, with no regrets. As for their little secrets, they would remain in that smoothie shop in the messages they had written on the back of their Polaroid photos. One read, 2024. 4. 1 2008. 12. 25 fated to meet again. The other read, 2024. 4. 1 2008. 12. 25 reunited at last. And so, it was a hidden, unknown commemoration. Or perhaps, one day in the future, it would become the foreshadowing of a world-shaking moment. That same night, the celebrations were not confined to East Bay. In the small town of Northwood, fireworks bloomed in the night sky. The dazzling bursts of light illuminated the windows of a classroom at Northwood High, casting flickering shadows across the room that had once belonged to the graduating class of 10. The classroom was silent and empty. Only a single figure, having entered from who knows where, stood quietly before the last row of desks by the window. It had taken several months. He had walked south from Spirit Springs Mountain, a journey of nearly 1,000 miles. He had walked and stopped, rested and cultivated. Following the intermittent guidance of his compass, he had finally arrived at this place. The middle-aged priest stared at the two desks before him, silent for a long time. His gaze swept back and forth between the two desks, finally settling on the one next to the aisle. He shook his head gently. The priest spoke softly, his voice calm yet certain. This isn't right. After Christmas, the festive atmosphere lingered on the Berkeley campus. The students weren't quite ready to let go of the holidays. Fortunately, just as they were bidding farewell to Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve was about to arrive. The annual New Year's Eve galas held by Berkeley's various schools once again filled the students with enthusiasm and anticipation. The members of each school's arts departments began their intensive rehearsals and preparations. But they weren't the only ones who were busy. On the commercial street near the East Gate, business at the Blockhead Workshop reached a new peak after Christmas. The massive campus promotion on Christmas Eve had truly made a name for the Mako Blockheads. Although all 5,000 sets of the Christmas edition had sold out on campus, the enthusiasm of the students on the old campus had not waned. Some who hadn't managed to buy one on Christmas Eve saw that their classmates and roommates all had them, and they felt a growing desire not to be left behind. They had to get one or two for themselves. But there was another, more important point. The rumors that had been circulating on campus for the past 2 days had been officially confirmed by the university administration. The university would be partnering with Mako Entertainment to establish a charitable foundation. Berkeley would take the lead, while Mako Entertainment would provide the funding, contributing 30% of its figurine sales profits to the foundation for charitable causes and to support underprivileged students on campus. With this development, the reputation of the Blockhead Workshop soared to its zenith among the entire student body. In Happiness rating system, the workshop was showered with 5-star ratings from Berkeley students, reaching an incredible score of 9. 8. The top like comments were, "The lethal couple are true heroes. Today, we don't screw Northwood High. We praise Northwood." The young students of Berkeley might meticulously budget for a nice meal out, haggling over an extra egg in their $8 late-night fried rice. But when it came to spending $20 on a blockhead figure to support a good cause, they were generous and unhesitating. Besides, they'd heard that these blockheads were some kind of trendy collectible toy. Buy one now for $20-something. If they kept in good condition, maybe it would appreciate in value. Just for that possibility, they had to get a couple and see. Of course, some people didn't care about appreciation at all, pulling out their money and buying a dozen blockheads without a second thought. Appreciation? I'm here to make a bulk purchase for my organization. This is our mascot. When others asked with curiosity, they would pull them into a corner, conspiratorially lowering their voice to a seductive and mysterious tone. "Brother, Have you ever heard of the anti-Northwood High Society? For a variety of reasons, business at the Blockhead Workshop became increasingly prosperous as the year drew to a close. The customers' enthusiasm nearly broke down the door. The 10 students from Northwood High, working as clerks in 2 shifts, could barely keep up. The rotating shop managers also took on the dual roles of introducing and selling the products. Kevin Zhao and Tessie Yuan, visiting from Portland, were seeing the workshop for the first time and were stunned by the bustling scene. They eagerly rolled up their sleeves and jumped in to help. In his spare time, Kevin also chatted with Leo about the situation at Mako Entertainment's Portland branch. Regarding the progress of the Heavenly Tactics game, the branch's evaluation team had given the latest demo extremely high praise after a new round of testing. After a couple more rounds of bug checks, they would basically be ready to announce its official launch. There was another matter concerning the branch's most diligent and capable employee, Serafina Vance. According to Kevin, this female employee, who possessed both beauty and ability, was truly his most valuable asset at the Portland branch. But recently, she had approached him with a request to be transferred to the East Bay headquarters, hoping to take on more challenging tasks and to meet the company's true big boss. Kevin was reluctant to let such a capable subordinate go, but her attitude was firm, almost pleading, as if she would lose her job if she wasn't transferred. In the end, Kevin's soft heart won out, and he agreed to help. Now, mentioning it to Leo thought for a moment. Serafina Vance? Huh? All right, after New Year's, have her complete the handover of her work at the branch, and then she can come over. After the battle through the Heavens browser game, the Mako Blockhead and Heavenly Tactics projects were progressing one after another. The headquarters did indeed need more capable hands. More workhorses were always a good thing. December 31 SD, the last day of 2008. On this day, a heavy snow fell across East Bay, blanketing the city in a silvery white coat. But it couldn't dampen the people's enthusiasm for celebrating the new year. That evening, the New Year's Eve galas of Berkeley's various schools were held as scheduled. At the School of Humanities, the gala prepared by the Arts Department under Cheryl Chen's leadership was as spectacular as the previous year. This year, the lethal couple did not go on stage to sing. The students of the Humanities School barely had time to feel relieved that they would be spared the public display of affection on stage this year. Because even though they didn't sing, Leo and Claire still made a guest appearance in the Griffin Players fairy tale drama performance. It was the familiar Snow White. Yvonne Moreau, who had been focused on her work at Mako Entertainment for the past few months, returned to the stage to reprise her role as Snow White. Claire once again made a guest appearance as the Queen. The 2 successive Berkeley It girls performed together once more, fulfilling the wishes of countless students who had missed their previous performance. The moment they stepped on stage, the audience erupted in a tsunami of cheers and screams. And this time, Leo also had a guest role. He played the Magic Mirror. It was Leo Hammer Wallace's first time acting, and he found it quite novel. During the performance, when he was on stage with his stunningly cold and beautiful girlfriend, who was dressed as the Queen, and she asked, "Magic Mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" Leo the Magic Hammer didn't even think. "You are." The words just tumbled out. Question marks floated above the heads of the audience members. Wait a minute. Are those the right lines? It almost threw Claire off her game. On stage, she shot a look at her idiot boyfriend. "Dummy, you said the wrong line. The fairest is Snow White." Leo finally snapped out of it. Fortunately, his skin was thick enough that he didn't feel embarrassed. Without batting an eye, he corrected himself. "Oh, Snow White is all right, I guess." Barely. The audience roared with laughter. In the front row, the guest faculty and university leaders were all bewildered. What was going on? Had a classic fairy tale like Snow White been adapted into something so avant-garde? Dr. Alastair Finch had also come to enjoy the festivities tonight, sitting in the main seat, surrounded by university leaders led by President Chun Wangdao. Hearing that rascal on stage spouting nonsense, he huffed and puffed, muttering something about adaptation, not fabrication. But as he looked at the young couple on stage, a nostalgic smile couldn't help but appear on his face. A pair of young people like them really made one look forward to the future. He wondered, after a few more years of growth, just how many people they would dazzle and make envious. And what kind of heights would they reach? Heights that others could only look up to